Hello, it's Gray.
Hello, it's Crystal.
And this is Bus Asian Beauties, a supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who has seen this show many, many times.
And I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian.
Both Asian. For this episode, we do have a very special one, obviously. It's 522, Swan Song. Written by Eric Kripke and Eric Juritz. Directed by Steve Boyum. I'm surprised it's a Steve Boyum edit.
Yeah, it's usually a Robert
director.
Singer situation.
Yeah. Usually it's fucking Robert. But I guess it's fucking Steve this time. Mm-hmm. Nice one.
Yeah, Steve, who directed The End and The Song Remains the Same. Both pretty good episodes.
Yeah. This episode, obviously, is good.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. For a long time, I really pushed back against the idea that Supernatural should have ended in season 5. The pushback comes from the thing that I still do believe that, like, Supernatural as an experience is the entire show. Like, Supernatural as an experience does have to include season 9 at the very least, you know?
Season 9?
Yeah. For me,
the one that made you
starts...
quit?
No, season 11 is the one that made me quit. Don't lie to the internet.
Okay. Wait, I thought it was... Okay. Yeah, because I was like, it was a season where Cass was super miserable. But he's super miserable in a lot of seasons. Season 11, he was miserable because of Cassifer?
Yes. Or, like, he wasn't in the season. Like, he was only half in the season because the other half, he's, like, in his own brain, imprisoned by Lucifer in his body.
Yeah. You made it through season 7, though.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, there's, like, different kinds of miseries. And I think the season 11 misery was, like, specifically, like, hard-hitting for me. That's why it made me so miserable.
Yeah.
Versus, like, season 9 where it was miserable, but, like, Cass was, like, he believed in himself and he was, like, trying. Versus in season 11 where he was just so depressed and miserable. And I was like, well, that sucks. I'm gonna stop watching the show. Yeah. That's not true. I watched until season 12, but I've lost heart. I was just holding on for the bit. That's irrelevant. I think I understand the idea of, like, it should have ended in season 5.
Yeah.
Supernatural, the experience should have gone on. And it did go on. And that's, like, the crux of it, that it did go on. But Supernatural, the story that they set out to tell, this is it. And Sam should not come back, and this should have been it. It is actually a very good conclusion to many of the things Supernatural was trying to tell. I mean, I'm speaking so much. What are your thoughts, opinions, violent reactions, etc.?
I really don't have much. I just sat for 42 minutes and I was like, okay, TV.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
I was really into it. I think maybe because of the throwback of it all or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that charmed me with it are, like, the things that when I first watched this, I didn't really think about or consider or really internalize. And now I'm, like, older and I've had more experiences in life. And it's like, wow, it means something different. Just like New Partner by Palace Music from that one Anthropocene reviewed episode.
Yeah,
so,
pretty good song.
Well, what did you know about this episode before going in?
Sam has to drink a bunch of jugs of demon blood so that Lucifer
which we don't even see.
Him.
Kind of wild.
Yeah.
Like, they really work with the guff about this now. Yeah.
Dean drives over to where the final battle's gonna take place to be with Sam because he loves him. Sam has flashbacks about toy soldiers and shit in the Impala, which causes him to be able to take back control and jump into the pit with Adam.
And in SP and Blur, they put a Phoebe Bridgers song over it, and they're like, wow, it fits perfectly, but I hate Phoebe Bridgers, so like, I don't give a fuck. I just wanted to bring it up because I thought you would maybe care.
I think I've probably seen that video. Was it with I Know the End?
Yes, I think so.
Before that, Lucifer explodes Cass with his brain, but Cass comes back at the end and heals Dean, who's bloody and kneeling on the floor, and Dean asks if he's God. Dean promises Sam that he'll go and have a normal life with Lisa, and also Cass brings Sam back. I'll have a normal life. And Chuck smirks and is revealed to be God for real, for real.
I'm laughing so much at my own joke, and it's so not funny. You didn't even laugh.
You just said, go have a normal life, but with some emphasis on certain words.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going through something. Anyway, completely unrelated to this episode. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the whole episode. Was there anything that you saw and you were like, oh, didn't know that, or, oh, that surprised me?
No.
Not really.
I didn't. Okay. I think I didn't know about the Chuck narration framing device being throughout the episode. Really?
Ah. I thought that was like always something that I really liked about this episode. I quite liked it. I did find at the end that it kind of falls apart. The idea that Chuck is like writing the book or a book when he starts explaining the themes and motifs to you.
Like, they died for family.
It's for family. But yeah.
Like, was it though? Like, it was, but
I
wasn't.
Don't know.
Like, I mean, I kind of really see how Sam jumping into the pit was for family.
I did also think about the fact that he was like, oh, the thing about endings is everyone's gonna be pissed at you no matter what. And like, there's always gonna be plot holes and stuff. And it's like, this is not like you can just fix those things, I think.
You don't have to do it.
It's just so fascinating to me watching this now, knowing how Supernatural will eventually end. Which is that it's gonna be a highly controversial, honestly god-awful finale. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, well, that sucks. This one was good though. So, end of an era. Honestly, I feel so old is how I feel watching this episode. I'm like, I've been a Supernatural fan for so long. I have been doing this podcast for what feels like just a blip of my life, but it's also been quite a while. And like, I don't know, I feel like I feel a bit haggy, as people would say. We're 1/3 of the way.
Yes.
Have you thought about that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. We've already gone through 2 university Zoom emails.
It's true.
And we'll go through maybe a bit more. Let's see. That's actually why you need to go to grad school.
I need to get into grad school so we can have
it's not for literally any other reason other than to have a university account.
Yeah.
On Zoom. We start the episode, it's Carry On My Wayward Son. And I will admit,
it does
get to me.
Oh. I thought you were going to admit that this then sequence is like not good in any way.
I mean, the then sequence was fine. I don't think it's particularly good or bad.
I don't think they had any themes or motifs in it.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, they were trying to do like
summary at best.
Which is, they were trying to do family, I think, is like the thesis of Supernatural.
How was it family? It was just them killing like a bunch of things to music.
They like hug and they're like, wow, we're brothers. They don't actually say that. They just hug. The brothers part is implied.
The hugging brothers, yeah.
Anyway, I mean, but like I think "Carry On My Wayward Son" is something.
Yeah, it's a song that exists. That's what it is.
No, I mean, I like that there's a supernatural song. I do. Yeah. And I know that I'm speaking to the choir, or maybe I'm speaking to the guillotine crowd, but like, I love supernatural. And it's nice that it has things to it. Which is the bare minimum. The bare minimum of the show.
Okay, having an unofficial theme song is a way to have the show stick in your mind and imbue certain things with significance. Sure, yeah.
You know, sometimes you'll meet a supernatural fan and you'll have nothing whatsoever in common in thoughts, beliefs, values, etc. But you both are affected by this song in ways inexplicable. So I think that's fun.
Remember that time when you said Dean's sex dream had 2 women in it, so the song should have been Cherry Pies instead of Cherry Pie? There are 2 sons in Supernatural. I think the song should be Carry On My Wayward Sons. And in some ways, there's 5 brothers to Supernatural, which makes it even more important that it should be Carry On My Wayward Sons.
Yeah, exactly. It should have been. We need to change the rock and roll music genre as a whole. And the 2 ways we are gonna do it is to change Cherry Pie to Cherry Pies.
Yeah.
And Carry On My Wayward Son to Carry On My Wayward Sons. Carry On My Wayward Children, you know? Gender neutral.
Yeah. Supernatural doesn't have anybody who's like the first sister, though.
Yeah.
Charlie, maybe?
But she's not. She's like a sister that Dean never had, so Dean doesn't have her as a sister. I don't know. Why so is it that there's no... What happened to all the sisters in Supernatural?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Joe?
Yeah, she died. They all got pushed out by the band Kansas, is what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dance sequence is whatever. I just like talking about
I just remembered how the jokes about Cass murdering the band Kansas before the finale so that they could perform at the planned party in the finale in heaven.
I don't know. Supernatural is kind of a bad show.
I'd watch a miniseries, like, slasher spin-off where Cass kills the band Kansas.
You know what? I would actually think I'd watch a documentary of what happened in the season 15 writer's room and production team of Supernatural.
Yeah.
I think I would be curious and I would want to watch it.
Yeah. I don't think that it's
release
big
the tapes or whatever.
That isn't
that a thing? Yeah. Like, people were like, there's a
They
clip
were saying that to Jackals
Jensen.
about the Destiel confession, yeah.
Yeah, so true. Release the hashtag tapes or something. I think it's hashtag release the tapes. Also, I should stop making hashtag jokes. They're, like, not funny. But, you know, we start the episode, as you said, and we continue it, as you said, with a voiceover from Chuck. And this is like him typing on his computer. And he's writing the show, or writing this part of the book. It is always so fascinating to me, the idea that, like, every episode is a book. That's kind of a bit of a... I mean, I suppose. Whatever. It's like Nancy Drew or something.
Yeah. His voiceover is over some grainy footage of, like, a car manufacturing plant. He says that there was, like, a really famous car that rolled off the line at a plant in Janesville. And 3 days later, there was another car that no one gave a fuck about. But it was, in fact, the most important car. No, the most important object in the universe. And this car is the Impala. He says that the first owner was an alcoholic
Sal
with
Moriarty,
2 ex-wives,
which is an
and
on the
3
road
blood stock
reference.
arteries. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because
I tried to read that book, you know.
how was it?
I didn't finish it. It was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it. Yeah. There was one scene. There's only one thing I remember from that book, which is that Dean Moriarty.
Yeah.
He was like the suave lover boy or whatever. They visited a friend who is so proud that he bagged a hot lady as a girlfriend.
Okay.
And so they're like sitting down and he's like bragging about his hot girlfriend. And then Dean is just like in the corner, like bored or whatever. And then as they are about to go, like the group of friends, he turns to the girlfriend. He points to his watch and he symbols 3, as in like with his hand. And then he comes back later at 3 p.m. and they have sex.
Okay.
So that's the only thing I remember. Maybe it's a wonderful book, but, you know, I don't know because I didn't finish it.
Yeah. It inspired Supernatural. How good could it be?
This is true.
Apparently on weekends he would drive around giving Bibles to the poor.
Yeah.
And then after that, the car ended up at Rainbow Motors, which we saw in 403. It shows the flashback of John buying
it.
And Dean advising him to do so. It's where the story begins and where it ends.
You know, they try to do this thing where they're like, oh, where it begins is where it ends, by like also putting it in Still Cemetery in Lawrence. And it's like, what's this score? Like, it's so funny to me that it's like, oh, this is where it begins and where it ends. And by it, they mean like the apocalypse. And it begins in Lawrence, Kansas, 22 years ago or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of stupid, honestly. But okay, Slay.
Yeah, I did groan when he said the Impala was the most important Carno object in the universe.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess it stopped the apocalypse. Well, why couldn't you say that Toy Soldier was the most important object in the universe?
Yeah.
There are many things involved in that were an important thing in the universe.
I do think there is like it's I feel like they missed a beat a little bit where they're trying to say that like it's important because it was loved. And like how, you know, Sam and Dean
and their home
saved the world because they loved each other. And they saved the world because they loved this car. And you know, and it's like stuff like that. But the way the framing is like, oh, it's the most important. It's where it all began. It's the most important thing. Sam and Dean are the most important people. And it's like, okay, so are they important because of a fundamental importance? Or are they important because they loved things and each other? Like, what is it?
And also the little interlude where he was like, Lucifer doesn't care what car they drive. Like, it just kind of came out of nowhere, and I don't think they really brought it home in any way.
Actually, I like that line. I would disagree with you.
Okay.
What do you mean they didn't bring it home, though? I'm interested in that.
Get what they were trying to do? It's like Lucifer doesn't love or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares? Is what I feel about that. And also he does in the scene with Michael, I think. So, yeah, I don't know that.
You know, that entire portion, I was thinking, how the fuck are we, like, Crystal and I, gonna talk about this? It's such a weird scene. And I have no idea what they were trying to do, really.
Like, let's not fight, please.
Let's not fight.
It's like, okay, well, maybe you guys should negotiate the stuff where you're starting the apocalypse. Like, if you're gonna be doing the let's not fight thing. Like, is it just he leaves and you continue ending the world? Like, what are the terms?
Yeah. I think what they were trying to do there is that, like, Lucifer thinks he knows everything about Sam and Dean. But he does, but like he doesn't understand what those things mean. So like he knows that they have this car, but like he doesn't care. And he doesn't consider that this is something they care about and can change the trajectory of their lives forever. So, yeah, I think that's what it was trying to do. And I like that. And I think I also like that, I mean, it was revealed to us, but like the things that make the story of like the Lego bricks and the toy soldier, like these are things that we're not privy to in the story. Like we are privy to it now, but it implies a larger, grander life for Sam and Dean that we are not privy to. And yeah, I think that was the point of it, like the existence of their life outside of this story. And I think that's what makes this episode so charming. It's like, yeah, they're like, we are told all of these things, but at the end of the day, there are things that we just won't know or won't understand. And that's just pretty cool. We are now in the salvage yard. And they have a heart-to-heart where Dean tells Sam that, yeah, you can do, like, I'm in with your plan. And, like, Sam asks, like, okay, so you're gonna let me say yes now? And Dean says, no, I'm not gonna let you do anything. Like, you can choose what to do. If it's what you want to do, then it's what you want to do, and I'll back you up.
Yeah. Which is nice. I did like this line.
Yeah.
And he cuts it with a joke where he says, you're a grown, well, overgrown man, which feels right. Like, I feel like he would need to make a tall joke in order to get through these sentences.
Yeah. And this part, it did get to me. Whatever. It always gets to me when they do this, like, you're my little brother. Bullshit.
They did this 4 episodes ago. Like, if he just stopped there, it'd be fine. When he kept talking, I was like, you did this 4 episodes ago.
I think it's because this is the episode where we see it in action. Like, Dean always says this shit. He always says, like, you're my little brother or whatever. But, like, this is the episode where we see that. Like, we see him, like, I don't know, like, staying with Sam in there and like telling him that like, I'm here, it's okay.
Wait, but this speech isn't you're my little brother. This speech is I've always treated you like my little brother in a way that denied you autonomy, so I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, you're right. So I'm talking about scenes from later on
that are completely unrelated to the thing that he's saying now.
I think, I don't know, like, I think there's just something to Dean's character where, okay, so like, I'm gonna get emo, whatever the fuck. But, like, you know, like, the concept of Dean as a character, who took care of his little brother is, of course, very prominent in the show. I don't know, I think when I was younger, I didn't really understand it. Mostly because when I was younger, I was the youngest in our family. So I didn't have like a little sibling. And so I always thought of it as like, you know, it's the same deal. Like, I have older siblings. I get it. But I do think it is like such a different experience to have a person in your life that you think of as someone you take care of. And I think that is something that I have taken for granted in terms of Dean's characterization. Like, I do think it's something. And like, you know, in this scene, he talks about how he thinks it's his job to take care of Sam because Sam's like not a baby anymore. So that's like, that shouldn't be their relationship anymore. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think Dean, like, if Sam and Dean, I don't know. I think the problem with their dynamic is that Dean thinks of himself as Sam's parent. But Sam wants Dean to be his older brother, which those are like very different things, right?
Yeah. And
I mean, it's difficult for them because they have a complicated childhood. Yeah, I just think like I don't know. Like, there's this one poem that I came across a while back, and it's something about how, like, this older father talking to his son, and the poem describes his son as, like, having a receding hairline. So he's also old now. And he tells his son, like, oh, calm down on the bread because, like, they have big portions here. You don't want to get full, like, too fast. And the kid, like, turns to his dad and goes, I'm like, are you really, like, telling that to me? Like, I'm, like, an adult or whatever. Like, it's such a funny thing to say to an adult. Like, you say that kind of shit to children. And then the poem goes like, sometimes when we're walking and there's a curb, I still, like, reach out for your hand. And, like, yeah, I feel like that is kind of like Sam and Dean's dynamic. You know, whatever.
You're allowed to have feelings even if I don't.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, it gets to me. I don't know. It's not gotten to me before in the past, I think, because it wasn't something I could connect with. But, yeah.
You couldn't connect with it 4 episodes ago when he said literally the exact same words?
Well, yeah, I couldn't. Because it wasn't placed in the context of, like, what happens later in this episode. Or at least not so directly. Yeah. I think, there is a lot to Dean's insecurity about, like, oh, I love Sam so much and I have dedicated so much of my life and my mental energy and everything, like, taking care of this kid. And to Sam, it's like nothing. But, like, I think that is the dynamic of a parent and a child a lot of the time. And so, yeah, I've been thinking about that with Sam and Dean.
What does to Sam it's like nothing mean?
To Sam, he wants to get out of here. Like, his vision is to be separate from Dean and etc. And I think, you know, the idea of, like, this is not a person who's, like, not my responsibility anymore is something that every parent has to go through eventually, right? But, like, I think, with Dean, it's difficult because he's not Sam's parent. He is 4 years older than Sam. Something child development, something blah blah blah. But also, like, I think, you know, when it is a parent, I think even when you're older, there is still the idea of, like, this is a person who is supposed to give me guidance. Like, even if I am a person even if I am a person on my own, etc., etc. Like, my parent is still here to give me guidance. And because Sam and Dean, their relationship didn't transcend to that dynamic because they are not father and son. They're brothers. Like, that's the crux of why the relationship is so complicated and difficult. And I feel for it, you know?
So you feel like it's Dean thinking of himself as Sam's parent that caused all the hurt over Sam wanting to leave?
I think it's that he is conflating, like, those relationship roles, I think, is the reason. Like, he wants a peer, he wants a friend, he wants a brother. But at the end of the day, Sam, like, their dynamic is so parental, often so parental, that it's difficult for it to work out that way.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, in my experience, parents like it when you go to college. No, but I guess, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, okay, I think what you mean about the conflating makes sense. Like, he has the feeling responsible for Sam part, but then, like, the brother and friend part of, like, let's stick together forever. So that's what causes the problem.
Yeah, like, he wants to be BFFs with Sam, but also he thinks of himself as someone who raised the kid. And those are, like, difficult concepts to combine together. Yeah.
Yeah. like, the raising makes him feel like Sam owes him something, like obedience or companionship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to let go of those dynamics, I suppose. Well, yeah. I mean, it does
You
get
have 4 years to get over it. I think.
Well, he had 2 years. Because the supernatural timeline is fucked up, but yeah.
Right, because they may have talked at college for the first 2 years, or that could have just been a script mistake.
I don't know. It's something that I think about because, I mean, whatever. I think I talk about my siblings a lot this show. But I do have, like, a younger sibling who's a kid, like an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
And so...
Just quite a different age difference.
Of course. But, like, I also think about, like, the concept of, like, you know, like being a parent versus being a sibling, and like how we ought to, how do you do that, especially and like with Sam and Dean, like obviously as I keep on saying that like Dean is just 4 years older than Sam, and like I don't know, like I was thinking about, sorry, I'm just rambling.
No.
Well, I was thinking about way back we had an episode where there was like something homophobic that Sam says to Dean. And you went, yeah, it sucks that he says this, but this is just how they talk. And I'm assuming Dean started it when they were kids. And I think at the time I was like, yeah, you're right. But like I gave it a little bit of a think and I'm like, wait, Dean was also a kid. You know? And it's like, it's, that's the thing about them. It's like, I think also like, that's why maybe it's also difficult for Sam to hold Dean accountable. Like, he can't find it in himself to, like, think of Dean as, like, somebody who has caused him hurt or whatever. Because it's like, well, Dean was a child also. And, like, I'm sure that adds even more complexity on how Sam specifically thinks of his situation.
Did Dean cause him hurt when they were both children?
No, I just mean like they have like a messed up dynamic. And like I feel like if you have a parent you have a messed up dynamic with, you're able to be like, well, they were an adult and they should have known better than to be a person who tries to be best friends with their kid who they're also raising. And now like, I don't know, like et cetera. They're finding it difficult for me to go to college or whatever. But like... With Dean, it's like Dean was
22
also
by that point, but yeah.
My point is like the development, like he was 22 at the time, but like
the development,
their dynamic started when they were kids, etc. Yeah, it's like when you're an adult parent, you have the benefit of not being a kid when those dynamics start.
Yeah. Dean asks Sam if this is really what he wants, and Sam says that I let him out. I've got to put him back in. And Dean goes like, okay, that's it then. So like, it's like a personal responsibility / guilt thing, I suppose, is how they're establishing it. So then there's the title card, and there's a scene that just implies that they bled out a bunch of demons. Bobby asks if Dean's okay, and Dean says no. And they look through some newspapers, and there are a few omens around, but the one that stands out to Dean is a temperature drop in Detroit, which is where Lucifer said that Sam was going to say yes in the end. So then they start driving there. Cass is asleep in the back seat.
Yeah,
and he looks adorable.
He's so cute.
Yeah.
And he is. So it's fine. And it is fine even if he's not. I just find it so fascinating that like the way they framed this scene was Dean being like, "Aw," and Sam going, "Okay, loser."
He's dying, Dean.
Maybe have some sensitivity to the fact that he's losing his powers, Dean.
Yeah.
Kind of true, kind of real. I think if Sam listened to our podcast where every single time Cass goes into heat, we're like, "Oh, Cass," he would be like, "You guys should kill yourself," or something. Sam won't say that, but maybe he would. Maybe he should even.
They're talking about Detroit. Dean has a bad feeling about it because of the predestiny, and he's also worried that Lucifer knows about the rings.
Yeah.
And Sam goes like, "Dean, like, serious talk time. Like, you know I'm not gonna come back after I fall into a big hole." And Dean goes like, "Yeah, I know." And Sam goes, "Okay, so you have to promise me something." And Dean's like, "Oh yeah, of course, anything." And Sam says, "You have to promise not to try to bring me back."
And Dean goes,
and Dean
"What?"
is shocked.
He's shocked and upset that Sam said this.
Yeah. Which I do like. Like, Sam's like, "I'm not coming back." And Dean's like, yeah, of course I know that." And he's like, "And you're not gonna try to bring me back?" And Dean's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. It's nice that he had all of this, like, turmoil and stuff, and also the entire time he didn't even consider that, like, he wouldn't be trying for the rest of his life to bring Sam back or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was this upset, and also he didn't even think it was gonna last that long. Or it would last that long, but, like, the whole time he'd be trying to make it not. So yeah, Dean's very upset and saying that he didn't sign up for that because Sam's gonna have such a bad time in hell.
Yeah. Which I think, like, I don't know. The thing about Supernatural is kind of like, it kind of really ignores a lot of, like, Dean's hell situation. Like, he did go to hell for a couple months. Or, no, 40 years. I don't know why I said it.
40 years. It was a couple months on Earth. It was 40 years in hell.
Yeah.
You weren't wrong.
And so, like, yeah, I feel like this is like not like a callback to it, but like a thing for Dean to consider that I've, like, have forgotten also. That, like, yeah, like, Sam is gonna suffer. And Dean is going to have an acute understanding of that suffering.
And Sam has an understanding of, like, your brother being dead long term and sort of having to give up on bringing him back.
Yeah. Oh.
So, yeah, they both are talking from experiencing what the other is about to go through. And that's nice. That's fun. At least Sam had a trial run. Like, he had Mystery Spot. Dean's trial run was just the end of season 2, and that was, like, for 2 days. Yeah, Sam says that it's too risky to try to get him out of the cage, given that Lucifer will also be in there. He says that Dean has to do it, and that what he should do afterwards is find Lisa.
Yeah.
Pray to God she's dumb enough to take you in. And then have a normal life where he goes to barbecues and football games.
He makes Dean promise.
Yeah, he does.
You know how, like, there are people who say that, like, who are, like, gay Dean truthers?
Uh-huh.
This is the one concession I will make. Like, I understand why you think that with this whole Lisa situation.
Huh. Because it feels like because the point is that he didn't go there because he really wanted to.
Yeah, like, he went there because he's trying to live up to Sam's expectation of a normal American life or whatever. And
he also went there of his own volition against Sam's will in 517.
Oh yeah, he did say it. Whenever I think of a future, blah, 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 I think of you guys.
Yeah, like, that was all him, baby.
Yeah, maybe Dean is bisexual, as I have always previously believed and continue to believe.
And maybe Dean is straight, as I have always. I don't actually believe that.
Yeah.
This Lisa fixation is, I mean, that's just the writers being like, that is what is easiest for us to do. Also, I'm sure, like, just knowing that Dean loved Lisa was helpful for Sam as a, you know, I don't have to think that, I mean, I care about his well-being, but I am glad I get to offload this onto somebody. But also, Bobby's, like, there.
There was Bobby, in fact. And later, Sam does tell Cass to take care of these two or something.
Incredibly trying to cover all his bases. It's such a good scene. He was like, if Dean turned out to be actually gay. And Bobby endgame for the world.
He was like maybe Sam was like, yeah, maybe Dean is gay, so like just in case I'm gonna tell Cass to take care of him or something.
Yeah.
It is so fun to me that like Bobby is just a duo this episode.
Yeah,
like everything that they do together, and they they have this conversation in the car with Cass in the backseat. That's the only exception. Cass didn't ride with Bobby.
Yeah,
but like later on,
Cemetery.
Yeah, later on they're together, and then like when Dean calls Chuck, like Bobby and Cass were like hanging out, and then when Dean's like, I'm gonna go, like they go from some side of the road towards Dean, and they're together. It's so cute.
Yeah.
Bobby is real. Yeah.
I do feel a bit Rufus baited though. Like, I thought he was at least gonna be in the montage at the end, just because like we have like Bobby on the phone like multiple times this season, and he goes, and by the way, I'm on the phone with my best friend Rufus. So I don't know. It seems like he should have shown up in the montage at the end, but he did not.
The scenes are incredibly short. I didn't notice. I'm only feeling it now. We don't really like. Oh, it makes sense because they're trying to culminate to a long scene. So
yeah.
They are now, like, in the place where Sam is bound to say yes. Is that true? Is Detroit in Chicago?
In Detroit. No, I think the transcript is wrong. Detroit is in Michigan.
That's so weird. I always thought it was in Chicago, too, for some reason. Maybe this transcript writer is Filipino. Shout out. They're in there, and they're standing in front of the building, and they're like, wow, this is it. And the first goodbye is between Sam and Bobby, where Bobby says, I'll see you around, kid. And Sam's like, okay, well, whatever. and Bobby goes, you fight him tooth and nail, okay? Like, keep swinging. Don't give an inch. And Sam says, yes, sir. And I was like,
fascinating.
My first thought, honestly, was like, John is more of a father to Sam than Bobby is. Like, Bobby doesn't deserve to be called the yes, sir, because that's for his father that he has a terrible relationship with. And Bobby is not his father. And the relationship is bad, so it doesn't count.
For fucking real. I also felt this way.
That's literally not your father.
Later when Lucifer's like, I'm your real family, I think I also started laughing. I don't know. I'm like, I will just throw the word family around. Like, it means nothing. Yeah, Lucifer's more of a father to Sam than Bobby.
It is actually impressive how much Bobby, like, kind of decap about Sam. Like, what started out as a joke has become the reality of the situation. And that's his coworker.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I guess you could just view him as carrying something. Like, maybe last episode, like, he was like, I'm just respecting Sam's wishes to jump into that big hole. So that's why I'm having this talk with Dean. And I'm like, I do care that he's gonna die. Yeah. But Yeah, I'm gonna put that aside to respect his plan and his competence or whatever, but also, like, does he care?
I think there is also the aspect of, we can view it as he was talking to Dean in that scene. So we're not really supposed to see it as, like, Bobby's perspective. We're supposed to see it as Bobby trying to convince Dean, which is, like, of course, different. So
yeah, but I think it says something that he thinks that Dean is afraid.
This is how Dean is going to be convinced. Yeah.
Yeah. That once he realizes that he's just doing this because he's afraid of losing Sam, he'll change his mind. Which I guess he did, so.
Yeah. I mean, me defending Bobby and saying that he actually does love Sam as a son is like, you know when you're like in a debate team and they put you in the homophobic side, so you have to fight for homophobia or whatever. Like, that's how I feel defending Bobby. It feels like I'm defending homophobia. I think he doesn't love Sam at all, but whatever.
I think he does a little bit. I think he just doesn't care that much. Or if he cared about Sam, he would care about him more. And how does this affect Dean way before he thinks about how it affects Sam?
Yeah.
Which is the whole show also, so.
I mean, I think at some point Bobby tells Dean, like, you're my favorite. Or maybe I invented it in my head. Anyway, like, it's implied the entirety of the show.
Yeah, so, he doesn't need to say
we know
it
that's true.
To know it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Bobby's a little teary as they hug, though. That's something.
It's true. And Sam does his next goodbye to Cass. And Sam goes, "What? Take care of these guys, okay?" And Cass, very solemnly, with his beautiful frowny face, goes, "That's not possible." And then Sam is like, a little bit taken aback. He's like, "Oh." And then he goes, "Humor me." And Cass goes, "Oh, I was supposed to lie." Okay. And then he puts on his most, like, corny, tired and played out smile.
Yeah, he twists his mouth just to one side.
And he goes, "Sure, like, they'll be fine." And Sam literally tells him to shut the fuck up, which is kind of real, though.
Well, he's smiling, though. It's a nice moment.
It cheered him up. Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't even shake hands. Sam held out his hand for a handshake. He wanted a 407 callback, but Cass didn't even do it.
Cass didn't even grab Sam's hand with both of his hands, which is the most important thing.
It's true.
I do find it fascinating that Cass is, like, barely a character this episode. He's not really around. Yeah. And I don't know. I think it is fascinating that we end the show. And I mean, the thing is, like, at this point, Cass is just some other guy in the show still. And, like, you know, as I've said a million times in the past, like, later on in the show, he's going to be a lot more of a presence, and he's going to be, like, when he's in an episode, he's like Mr. B plot or Mr. A plot, like, it's the entire episode, versus in season 4 and 5, where he just shows up for short increments, and it's, like, quite irregular and stuff. And so, like, I get it. I get that, like, he's not that big of a deal yet this season. So, like, he's not gonna be such a huge presence in the finale. I think what I want to say is that I am a little bit impressed that they have him here. If that's the case. Like, I don't know. I think I find it fascinating that he has been elevated to Bobby status. Like, so quickly. Yeah. That's it, really.
It'd be weird if he wasn't here.
Why would it be weird?
Well, he's just been fairly involved in the whole apocalypse fight thing.
Yeah. And I think, you know, with him and Dean, they are trying to do kind of a foil situation with what happens to them at the end. Is that true? You know, I don't actually know what foil means.
Like, they're like opposites or like contrasts in
Yeah, okay. Well,
ways.
they are. Yeah. And like, you know, like Cass got everything that he wanted and he got everything back versus Dean who like lost everything. Like they were trying to do something with that. And when he was like, do you want peace or freedom? That was something too. So like, yeah, you're right. There is like a point, like a storytelling point to Cass's presence. Love him.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go to season 6 and we're gonna be kind of miserable. But that's gonna be true for like the rest of the show.
Yeah.
And most of the show before. So I don't know.
So finally it's down to Sam and Dean. So he goes over to the jugs of demon blood and he asks Dean, you mind not watching this? And Dean walks away and we, the viewers, also don't watch this because it cuts to when he's done. Can you believe in season 4, Cass was like, if Sam drinks too much demon blood, he'll become a monster and a killing machine. And he literally chugs like 4 jugs like right now.
And he's
like
normal. Yeah.
He's normal. Like he seems a bit more focused than usual and that's about it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, also like, I think he was just focusing on not vomiting it up. Honestly.
Yeah.
What is the digestion like timeline of demon blood?
Yeah, no, I don't think he can. How could he have drank that much without having to piss in between?
I mean, later when like let's get like you know like when Lucifer's like, no, I actually know what's happening, and Sam makes that distressed face, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He was actually trying not to vomit. That's why he was making that face.
For real.
4 gallons, though, at least.
Yeah.
Concerning.
So yeah, Sam says, oh, let's go. And he and Dean go into a building while Cobby are outside watching. So, you know, Sam shouts for the demons to come get them. They get taken upstairs where Lucifer is. We get another Chuck voiceover where he talks about like Sam and Dean's history with Impala. There's like a little army man figurine that Sam put in the ashtray. There are Legos that Dean shoved into the vents. And you can still hear them rattle when they turn the heat on in the car. And he says that even when Dean rebuilt the Impala, he made sure all of those things were still there. I don't know how that's possible, but okay.
I'm not sure how it's possible, but I find the idea endearing.
Yeah. Maybe you had to go out and buy new Legos to cram in.
For real. And a new toy soldier. That's not actually the toy soldier Sam used. He just had bad memory as a child.
Yeah. And he says that it was the blemishes that made them all beautiful. And then he says the devil doesn't know or care what kind of car the boys drive.
We go to Lucifer. And he does this thing where, like, they're inside a room and it's like, it looks like it's freezing because there's, like, condensation on the window. And then he, like, when he breathes on the thing, there's, like, something. And then he draws, what Greek letter is this? It's Psi.
I should know this.
Wait, let's see. Trident Greek letter.
I don't know if it is a Greek letter. You can like style
it is
really? Let me check.
The Greek letter Psi, the shape of a trident or pitchfork.
Oh yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah, he could just be. Maybe he's just drawing a pitchfork
because he's the devil.
Because he's the fucking devil.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to figure out what does Psi mean? Like, what is this? Because I was thinking he could draw the omega symbol, so it could be like the end, you know? But he's not going to draw the omega symbol, and I feel like I would know if he drew the omega symbol.
Yeah, I think people would be talking about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, he's like, oh yeah, it's cold. Sorry. Most people think I burn hot. It's actually quite the opposite. Which, I think I've heard people talk about this as like, wow, so cool. I think it's whatever.
I think I've heard of it in the context of like the cage must have been very, very cold. And I do think it's interesting to think about the psychological impact of just like freezing and freezing for 200 years.
Yeah. Lucifer, his face is falling apart. He doesn't look, when was the last time we saw him? Actually. Was it really like in Abandon All Hope?
I don't think so. He was in Hammer of the Gods.
Oh my god, you're right.
Remember Hammer of the Gods? I try not to.
I try also not to. Did he already have like sores on his face?
Yeah.
During that time? He did?
Yeah, I think he had them in Abandon All Hope too, because he was explaining, like, this isn't my true vessel, so that's why this is happening.
Ah. Okay. Well, I think maybe they did a little bit more of it this episode or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Sam immediately is like, I'm going to say yes. And then, like, Lucifer is like, oh, excuse me? And then Sam, like, closes his eyes and squints a little bit. And then the two demons beside them, like, they, like, explode.
With, like little light effects.
Yeah, they explode with light. They don't explode bloody like Cass later. They just, like, their head blows up like a bulb.
Yeah, but, like, not in any way where any parts of it
it's cool.
Go anywhere. There's just a little light that explodes over their head and they fall down intact.
Yeah, but, and Lucifer's like, damn, okay. You're for real. And Sam says, okay, we understand. We just want the deal of the century. I give you a free ride. You keep me safe. You keep Dean safe. You bring back our parents. Hilarious. So fucking true.
So, okay, and the implication is, okay, so Lucifer ends the entire world. The earth is empty and burned to a crust. And then it's Sam, Dean, Mary, and John just standing there.
They don't end the world. Like, that's not the intention of the fight.
True. It'll just, things will. Well, but also, like, if Lucifer wins, all the demons are gonna come up onto Earth to hang out and presumably kill everybody.
Yeah, but, like, Lucifer also hates the demons. So, like,
that's true. That's true. So that's not actually part of his plan. He's going to kill all the demons, as Crowley thinks.
Yeah.
So, like, what is the aftermath?
I have no idea. And I mean, like, obviously Sam's bluffing, so it's not like this is something he put a lot of thought into, perhaps. Yeah. But Lucifer immediately is like, okay, can we, like, drop the act? I know that you have the rings. And Sam is like, oh no, I'm gonna throw up. Like, he looks so distressed. And he puts on his most, like, he's most, like, oh no, I'm going to pretend I'm not upset, but I'm so upset. It's unreal voice. And he goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I understand that he's, like, having the worst day of his life.
Yeah.
But, yeah, maybe Sam should enter acting school or something. Not because he's good, but specifically because he's bad. Yeah. Mm. Lucifer's like, no, I know everything that's happening. So, it's pretty fun, like, battle in our head. If you win, then you win. If I win, then I win. Let's do it. And Sam is like, yeah, we don't really have a choice. Like, no matter what, like, even if he knows, we can't do anything else. So, he says yes. And there is a bright light that like emanates from Lucifer. And then we cut to Bobby and Cass hanging out outside, and they see the light like bursting out the window, which I thought was pretty cool. And back in the room, like Dean is still there, and Sam is collapsed on the floor. And Dean like tries to awake him or something, and then he also opens the portal. And oh my god, there's a chant. That's what Death was talking about. I thought that was just being... I thought Death just thought Dean was so stupid.
Didn't know how magnets worked.
Yeah. But apparently there's a fucking thing that I need to say. Sorry for insulting literally everyone last episode. Yeah. But Dean throws it to the wall and he does his chant. And then there's a hole in the wall, just like the variety show.
It's fun that the cage, like, doesn't actually go into the ground.
Go down, yeah.
Like that hole is completely just through a bunch of walls and then out into the air or some shit.
Like, Sam, like, kind of wakes up and it's like, oh, it's Sam. And he's like, oh, I can feel him, like... Okay, I need to jump now because it's like our only chance. And then he goes to the portal and he hesitates a little bit. And then he like smirks. And then, we realize that it's actually Lucifer. He turns around and he tells Dean like, I'm actually Lucifer. And then he gets the fucking horseman rings, and then he disappears, but for some reason Dean has the rings later. No, Sam has. Sam gets it from his pocket. You're right. And by you're right, I mean me. Lucifer tells Dean like, I told you it was always gonna happen in Detroit. And it did. That is a fun thing. Lucifer disappears and Dean's there. And, Lucifer spares Dean, which he makes a point of mentioning to Sam later.
Right. We're over to Sam and Lucifer, and they're in, like, some dark building, and there's some demons there standing in a circle. And Lucifer has a little monologue time, or a dialogue time, where he's looking in a mirror and he's talking to Sam, but he also allows Sam to communicate. Yeah, so there's like a mirror and it's kind of broken, and in the mirror, like, it's like Sam with his dialogue and expressions and things, and then when we cut to like the non-mirror view, then that's Lucifer. Yeah.
So, what do you think of this scene? I thought it was... I mean, obviously they had to do something to get Sam and Lucifer to talk.
Yeah.
So we take what we can get, is how I feel about this scene.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what else they would have done.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel too. Like, I think it's a little bit corny, but like, whatever, it's what they ought to do.
Yeah. What's your assessment of Jared Padalecki's acting as Lucifer abilities?
I think it's fine. I think in the Skull Cemetery scene, it's great. I think in these scenes, it's a little bit less good. But it could also just be that I have seen the Skull Cemetery scene so many times. So, like, I just know... I'm just more familiar with it or something.
Which part of the Skull Cemetery scene?
Like, the entire scene.
But, like, including the conversation with Michael at the beginning?
Yeah. I know, no. Actually, the conversation with Michael was kind of stupid. I think I didn't really think about Lucifer's acting at that scene. Because all I could think of was like, wow, this conversation's so stupid.
Yeah, I'd be like, look at these two fuck-ass guys in the middle of fuck-ass nowhere, and they're the most fuck-ass guy outfits ever.
Yeah. The thing thing about it is, like, I think they were trying to do, like, an apocalypse just looks like a normal day or whatever.
The mundanity of whatever.
The mundanity of it all.
Yeah.
And it kind of works. It also is just kind of funny.
Yeah, like they are so dudes. Powerful, but it was just a dude running at a dude and then the other dude running at a hole.
I think it's not the mundanity of what it looks like, actually. I think it's just that they, like, their heart is not even into it.
Like, I don't think Jake Abel could actually convey the, like, magnitude or gravity of, like, having Michael in him.
And then also just, like, the whole, like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but I have to. And it's like, no,
because of my daddy.
I also don't want to do this. And you don't have to do it. You know, and it's like, what, like, you're going to fucking destroy the earth and you don't even give a fuck. Like, your heart is not even into it.
You've been doing a lot of stuff to lead up to this point, Lucifer.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't want to do the fight, you could have also just not done the rest of it.
Like, you know, like, I think so much of it is they're just dragging their feet. They're like, oh, fine, we have to fight, whatever. And it's like, you know, it's like stage season 3. Should we mention that? Well, like, in stage season 3, how, like, the entire show is about how they don't want to do the show anymore. That's what, like, this Michael and Lucifer conversation sounds like.
There's a scene, Lucifer's thing is that, he smirks, and Sam's thing is that he's upset. So, he tells Sam that he's not the bad guy here, and Sam's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And Lucifer's like, who are you actually angry with? Me? Or yourself?
They're always trying to do this shit. Like, what is this bullshit? Are you actually mad at
angry at Lucifer because of how he killed a bunch of people? That's how I feel.
So real. Like, are you mad at me or are you mad at yourself because you can't stop me? Like, I'm mad at you. Like, what are you talking about?
Dean, who really started the apocalypse? Sam, who was completely led astray? Or you, who didn't stop him?
So true.
Supernatural said inaction is action. And that part is true. Thank you, Supernatural, for these valuable life lessons. Yeah, also Lucifer makes like a Star Wars reference where he calls Sam Young Skywalker. And I don't know, it's whatever. Many people have said that it's annoying how much Demons and Angels reference pop culture throughout the rest of the show. And it fucking is. Like, why'd you decide all of them talk like Dean Winchester?
I mean, it's the reason why Cass stands out, obviously. But also, like, I thought what you were gonna say is that, like, Supernatural is inspired by Star Wars.
That's true. He did say that.
Did you say Star Wars? Kind of true. No, kind of real.
I think I said Star Wars. But I was about to say a sentence that had Star War in it, so maybe you just sensed that.
Yeah. What was the sentence?
I've only watched like 5 minutes of a Star War, and that's my entire experience with that franchise. Yeah. So I can't tell how much inspo was actually taken. I'm a little bit more okay with Lucifer making pop culture references because I feel like his thing is that he's like just like very childish and annoying in like a very mundane way. Like, I feel like the pitchfork on the condensed glass was also part of that. Like, yeah, like he's doing a bunch of horrible things to people and he doesn't really care because he's just having like a very fun kids show time in his head about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think that's like negative or positive? I missed.
No, I think that's an interesting way to do it, and that's why I'm more okay with him making references to like pop culture, especially like pop culture that's not very deep or whatever.
Later in Supernatural, at some point, like that's how he tries to get Jack on his side. Like he tells him, "We can go to the stars," like in Star Wars, and then he does like a lightsaber motion.
Okay, that's a little bit annoying, honestly. I'm imagining it, and it seems annoying.
No, I think it's Jack who brings it up. He's like, "Wait, like in Star Wars," and he's real for that. Yeah. If you tell me to go to the US, I'll be like, "Wait, just like in Supernatural," and I'd go.
Yeah. You would want to go to a place that was like in Supernatural?
I'm interested in the culture. You know how people are like, I want to go to India because like
5 people you've seen a very specific Robert Sean Leonard.
This Robert Sean Leonard interview. What did he say? I'm gonna look up our DMs for that scene because I always thought that was hilarious. But he was like, "Yeah, I want to go to India. I think
I've been really interested in the culture recently."
Yeah. And that's how I feel about the United States. I'm really interested in the culture. And I don't want to do that city shit. I want to go to the fucking Wisconsins of the world.
Yeah. I think they have good cheeses in Wisconsin.
Oh, he says, "I've been reading up a lot about it. It seems interesting."
You know, it's more than the writers of Hammer of the Gods ever thought to do.
Yeah. I don't think any writer from Hammer of the Gods ever opened up a book about India.
Yeah, but I guess apparently Sam is meant to be just angry at himself or whatever. Which is
I do
fine.
think this is a fascinating, like, how they conclude this scene. It's okay, let's go through the scene.
Yeah,
and then let's
so
talk
the
about
rest of the scene. Yeah, he's been waiting for Sam a long time, and he tells Sam that he has to admit that he can feel exhilaration while he's being possessed because the two of them were made for each other. And he says, like, Sam always felt odd and out of place in his family. It's just because he's gay, man.
Yeah, just like Luke Skywalker, yeah.
Yeah.
No, and Luke Skywalker is like an orphan, I think.
He was also gay. I thought you were just talking about the gay part.
Yeah, his Chanel boots and everything.
He says, "And why shouldn't you have? They were foster care at best. I'm your real family." And Sam goes, "No, that's not true. I'm your
real family." Yeah, I mean, I feel the thing is like with Sam and Lucifer. It could be interesting, this whole thing, whatever. It's also just not handled
talked more
well, like, at all. Yeah. Like, they don't do much with it, and etc. And that's a bummer, because it's a theme that they keep on trying to harken back to, like, in the future. They will keep on doing this shit where Lucifer is like, "No, you're secretly grateful for me," or like, "No, you feel secretly connected to me," or whatever. And like, as the audience, you're supposed to think, is that true? Or something. I don't know. I didn't really think much of it until, people started talking about it. So I don't know. Maybe I won't think it in the future. But
and he says that all those times you ran away, you weren't running from them. You were running towards me. That was kind of a fun line. No?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, like it's horrible, like
horrible.
feelings wise, which makes it a good line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he says, like, "But it'll be good. Like, I spared Dean. I'll bring your parents back. I want you to be happy." And yeah, I think he does do well with the creep factor in this particular exchange. I don't know, the Sam and Lucifer relationship will continue throughout. And there's like a rape element that becomes more and more explicit throughout the show as well, right? Yeah. And I think that is a natural follow-up from all of this. Like, I know what you want. Like, admit it. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also just the whole possession being sexual assault thing that they've established since, like, season 1 or 2. I feel like we have all these scenes where it's like, Sam, like, you know deep down inside there's something wrong with you, and like you belong with Lucifer and demon kind and all that stuff. And I feel like the only place where we actually saw that in a way that felt like Sam driven instead of other people saying stuff and you're just supposed to go like, that is how he really feels, is like when the levee breaks. And I don't, like, was that, he talks about feeling wrong the whole time, like, when he was a kid, but I feel like the element of, like, and you feel right and whole, like, with Lucifer, with Demon Blood, like, I don't think that was really...
Is explored,
explored in 421, and I feel like it needed to be in order for me to believe that part of Sam feels that Lucifer is his wheel family.
Yeah. And I think an interesting thing that Lucifer does is he's it's raining so hard, so I'm probably gonna have a hard time editing this part.
Oh, horrid.
But like something interesting Lucifer does is he starts with the big things, and then he gets it smaller and smaller and smaller until it's true, and then he's like, since that's true, the entire thing is true. Like, he's like, oh, you feel you were running towards me, and like I make you whole, and I'm actually your true family, etc. And then like Sam says, I don't want anything from you, and then Lucifer is like, really, not even a little bit? And then later, when Sam like kills all of the demons who were in his life, we are, I think, to believe that like Sam feels kind of good about it.
Yeah.
And then so now Lucifer has established that this is something Sam did like or did enjoy, and then now it like gets into Sam's head that like, wait, so all of those bigger things true when those things are like not related? You know?
Right.
But because Lucifer connects them, that's like where the manipulation really comes in. I think it's like really interesting. Honestly, like I really think it's really interesting. Like the way this conversation plays out, where he just goes from big thing to small thing, and how like that manifests into Sam. I don't know. It's honestly, I think because this is one of the things that Supernatural actually does deal with complexity. I think for ways that I do not agree with, like for reasons I do not agree with, but they do deal with it with some complexity, like the whole Lucifer and Sam situation. And so it is like something that I feel like an extra something of care when talking about. Because like a lot of the time, like a lot of the other dynamics in Supernatural are pretty straightforward.
Right.
Versus this one where like the things that Lucifer is doing are like, I think, actual things that actual people in the world do or experience. And so, like, it feels a lot more, like, difficult to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think I have kind of shared this kind of sentiment in the past. But how like the Lucifer and Sam relationship plays out like in season 7, in like the visions that Sam has of Lucifer, and also like in season 13, like those conversations are not really things I am incredibly excited to do. Just because I feel like this is like something that does need a lot more complexity of thought about things that are sensitive topics.
Right. He also describes the feeling that Sam feels as exhilaration. Yeah. Which I think is a good choice for manipulation because, like, a lot of exhilaration is, like, you know, like high heartbeat, nervousness. Yeah. And it's very easy to say that someone who's upset to say that it's exhilaration. Yeah. Yeah. And especially after killing a bunch of people that you kind of are angry at. Like, that is probably something that you could think of yourself as feeling.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Supernatural, honestly, they do this. Like, they provide Lucifer and Sam with an interesting dynamic. I don't think they like, just because Sam's characterization is always on the, like they're always doing a terrible job at it. You know? And so, I don't know. I think I feel a little bit more, dubious about what Supernatural is trying to actually tell us with scenes like this. Just because historically they have not had a good rapport with Sam's character. And that is a little bit frustrating to me. It's a lot frustrating, honestly.
Yeah, so Sam says, I don't want anything from you. And Lucifer goes, really? Not even a little payback? And all the demons who are there, Sam starts to recognize them as people who have been throughout his life. There's like an elementary school teacher. There's
some guy.
His friend Doug. His prom date Rachel.
And it is kind of wild to me that, like, Rachel is in a gown. Like, everyone's in a white outfit.
Gown.
Rachel is in a white gown. Like, during prom? A white gown?
Yeah, wait, is this meant to be the prom outfit that she was in? Like,
that is supposed to be the implication. Yeah. That it's like the prom outfit. I think it's still stupid. Like, I don't think that should be her outfit now as a demon who's walking around. But yeah, I think the implication is that is her prom outfit. In which case, terrible prom outfit. A white dress? I didn't go to prom, so maybe that's actually a wonderful dress.
I'm trying to remember what other people who went to prom have worn. I think some people do wear white. Yeah, he says, Sam Winchester, this is your life. And that Azazel's gang has just been here the whole time, manipulating him the whole time. I know how you feel about them. Me too. What do you say you and I blow off a little steam? So, okay, wait, so he hates them because he just hates demons in general?
Yeah. No. I think it's because, you know, they, like, manipulated him and stuff.
No, I mean Lucifer hates them. Like, when he says, me too.
Ah. Oh, yeah. I suppose so. I think it does.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like he was maybe trying to frame it in, like, a how dare they manipulate you since you were young way, or like we hate them for
I'm the only one who can manipulate you.
Exactly. Even though I told Azazel to go up and manipulate you. I think he just hates them because he hates demons, but I think that he is trying to frame it to Sam, like, and because I want you to be happy and I'm trying to protect you or whatever, don't think too hard about why they were following you in the first place.
Dean, Cass, and Bobby are outside a, like, TV store or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're watching the television. Just like in Tian Mimi or the movie Comrades Almost Lovers. A beautiful movie. Go watch it. It's featuring Maggie Cheng. The most beautiful woman of all time. Cass is like, yeah, we're fucked. I don't know what to tell you. he like, Dean's like, what are we gonna do? And he's like, let's just drink a fuck ton.
Wait, you dies. When Cass says it's starting and Dean says, yeah, you think, genius? Cass says, you don't have to be mean.
Cass goes, you don't have to be mean. Yeah, he like turns around a bit. Honestly, like he moves his body away from Dean. Like he moves his head away. Cute. You don't have to be mean.
That's so fun.
True. Yeah. After his alcohol comment line, Dean says like, okay, Bukowski. And I think because of this line, I tried to read a Charles Bukowski book.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't make it. I don't think it's for me.
I haven't read any Bukowski, so maybe really? It's for me and maybe it's not for me.
Yeah. I think I don't like books that are misogynistic. I mean, I don't even remember which Bukowski
What a weirdo. You don't like books that are misogynistic?
No, but like, I feel like there are limits. Because, for example, I read a lot of Kurt Vonnegut, and I think
yes, I was about to bring that up, in fact.
Like, has a lot of misogyny in his books. I think because with Kurt Vonnegut, if you read his books one at a time, I think it becomes more swallowable. Like it's more palatable. Like you can go like, well, that sucks that this is how women are written, but you can still turn the page, right? I think there are other authors where that's quite impossible to do. And I'm not sure if Bukowski is one of them, but there was like a time in my life where I was, every time I read like a misogynist, I was like, let's not do this. I don't want to do this. Yeah. And also like with Kurt Vonnegut, I think the reason why I had have like a very, 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 very strong aversion to like, his other books other than the ones I read is because I just read the ones I read in sequence. So like, you know, like all the misogyny is like, it's like so obvious the patterns of it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway.
I just skimmed a Charles Bukowski poem and it was decent. So maybe it also felt a little misogynistic though. But yeah, I don't know if Dean was referring to his books or his short stories or his poetry.
I mean, I think we should have started doing like a book recommendations in Supernatural. Like, let's just keep a list. I think that would be a fun thing to do. Books mentioned in Supernatural. Or books that are referenced in Supernatural. And for me, the number one is, of course, the Vonnegut's. Just because I am actually a fan. So. And then, I don't know, at some point, Dean talks about Aesop. And so I was like, wow, you're a genius.
Yeah, he also talks about like the Odyssey, and Sam's like, "Oh my god, what?"
Oh, at some point, someone calls him a beach read, and he goes, "Beach read, lady, I'm Tolstoy." But that is also a thing that he says.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I'm incredibly annoyed by it.
Yeah, I just really hate when Sam and Dean say "lady" as like a replacement for a name. Like I think that's incredibly rude. And also, if anyone else does it, I also don't like it. It's not just Sam and Dean.
Yeah. They should replace it with ma'am.
I like it when Sylvia Plath says it in one of her poems that starts, "Lady, your room is lousy with flowers." But that's my only exception, just like Paramore. Anyway, Dean calls Cass a slur. I asked, prior to recording, I asked Crystal what the status of sissy as a slur is. I think it is a slur.
Typically, I said that I don't really think it is, but like, I don't know. I think
different environments, different
different environments,
communities. Yeah.
Yeah. I also, I don't know. I feel like the word slur, I don't always know what it means because I feel like people use the word slur to mean different things.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
We're going to do linguistics blah, blah, blah in this one. But I don't know. I mean, obviously the way it is used here is derogatory.
Yes.
And it like, okay, so the line is, you listen to me, you junkless sissy. We are not giving up. I think the combination of those words, junkless and
yes,
is like obviously it's trying to do something with regards to like you're unmasculine. Yeah, I don't know. It's like because like 2 episodes ago, we talk about how they say fag in Supernatural. But it's all obviously not used as a slur in the show.
Yes.
Like, yeah, like the author maybe was like, haha, tongue in cheek, like, tee-hee-hee, we said it. But like, in the context of the show, if this was just a conversation that happened in front of me, I'd be like, yeah, that's not a slur. But here, like, it's so very obviously said with vitriol.
Derision, yeah.
Yeah. So horrible. It did like perk me up. I was like, oh, okay. I think perk me up is not the proper.
Yeah, I don't think.
No, I was just like, you know, like my head was down and then it rose up. So yeah. Did you say it made your dick hard?
Yeah. It perked you up and made your dick hard.
Is that what perk you up means?
It can mean cheered up, but I think sometimes people also mean arousal when they talk about it. But yeah I think sissy is often a term applied to gay men and trans women. And I think that the junkless aspect of it, like, definitely touches on the latter some more.
Yeah. And again, and like, I don't know. No, I mean, like, because the way we talk about fag, for example, is like, it is a slur, but like, you know, it's used lovingly in many communities. And like, I don't know, maybe that's true for this also, but doesn't make it not a slur, you know?
Yeah, I've heard some
so
people
I think
self-identify using sissy. Yeah.
Anyway, all of that.
Yeah.
I was just surprised, and this episode was in 2010, so I think we also need to keep that context in mind. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe I don't know what was acceptable.
I don't know the etymology and etc. Yeah.
I'm gonna check if this is the first time this word was used in Supernatural. Dean said it in 211, but not as a noun. He uses it as an adjective. He says that old school haunted houses have fog, secret passageways, and sissy British accents.
Interesting,
yeah. I can see why that would pass us by, though. Like, I feel like it's not used as, like, vitriolically as it is here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everything can be a slur if you say it harshly enough. But also that's not true. But like this one, it's true for this one.
Yeah, I think this one, because it has like a history of being used to mock queer people.
Okay, so Dean asked Bobby, like, Bobby, do you have any ideas? And Bobby just goes, nope, we're going to fucking die. And then we go back to Lucifer and Sam. And now there's like multiple dead bodies on the floor. Yeah.
And they really focus on Rachel because of the red blood stain
on
the white dress.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like in the middle of her torso too. And I kind of was like, is it in the lower abdomen? Just like every other woman in Supernatural. But I don't think it was. Perhaps. I think it was like higher up in the torso. But yeah, like Lucifer asked Sam, like, are you having fun yet? And I think Sam looks guiltily or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have another Chuck voiceover.
Yes.
And he says, like, in between jobs, Sam and Dean would sometimes get a day, sometimes a week, if they're lucky, and they would have just, like, free time. And they would use that time to make some money. And he says, like, Sam used to insist on honest work, but now he hustles pool like his brother.
What was the honest work that he could do for a day?
Sam was doing. I mean, you can like do construction work for a day, I think.
I think like factories and shit sometimes will just hire people.
Factories, quickly. Really?
Maybe, I don't know. That sounds.
I feel
right
like you need,
but I don't know where.
I don't think that's right. Yeah,
okay.
I think you need a rigorous like health exam for that.
Factory work, construction work, you don't need to?
You don't. I mean, I'm Filipino. I don't know about American life. But like, yeah. I mean, you can just show up to a house and be like, I'm going to build you a cabinet, and then you do it. I don't know. I'm going to fix your plumbing or something.
Huh. Yeah. Perhaps. Maybe Sam was a scab.
Yeah, for real.
Maybe every single time he insisted on honest work, it was because
it was completely dishonest,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think you would need, I think here the requirements for like any job, but also factory job specifically, is like you need a police clearance and you need like all of the tax bullshit, and then you need a health examination, including an x-ray, because they're checking that you don't have tuberculosis. So yeah, I don't think he can go in for that unless he has those ready. But then again, it's like one day. Come on, how is he even gonna get paid? Is it at the end of the day pay?
Like, cash, I guess.
Yeah, but they usually do that at like the 15th and the 30th, I think.
Well, if it's like a job position where everyone's expected to only be there for a day.
Are you sure that factory work you can do for a day?
I don't know if this is true. I don't know why I think that it's true.
What other jobs does Sam do? What is his honest work?
I don't know. Did he go around knocking on doors asking if they wanted their lawn?
Can I mow your lawn? What if he had a sickle and he was like one of those guys who was like, you don't actually need a lawnmower, you need a sickle.
I'm going on the website LaborWorks USA, and they have partnerships with various companies that offer same day pay and temporary work.
Temp work,
yeah. And the industries that they have listed are assembly and manufacturing, which does imply factory work. And then construction, food service. Food service makes sense, like if someone needs like an extra hand for catering or something.
Yeah. Oh my god, maybe Sam was a caterer.
Yeah, maybe so. Landscaping, machine operations, moving and package handling, packaging, site cleaning and waste removal, warehouse and distribution, and housekeeping and janitorial services. I do think you have to apply to join this like organization though, so they probably do vet you at some point. But maybe Sam did join at some point, like an org that has partnerships with various temp jobs. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, maybe if you just stand outside a restaurant during like rush hour, you can be like, "Can I come in for a quick shift?"
So
I'm sure there's like a lot of restaurants that there are a lot of restaurants that will just I'm pretty sure there are restaurants that like will just if it's like just not a very formal system.
If you work for tips kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
But yeah, I don't know. Anyone who has experience getting one-day jobs, let us know.
Maybe he was doing open mics. So true. Go, Sam.
Yeah. That's an honest day's work. Yeah, no. Like, Dean was hustling pool and Sam was doing an open mic.
So in the same bar. They were doing it in the same place. Yeah, Chuck says, like, they drove 100 miles for an Aussie show 2 day for a Jayhawks game. I did find these ones very charming. I found them very charming. I think it's so charming. I don't know. What is the Jayhawks?
I'm looking it up and I'm seeing a band, but they said game. Oh, it's a Kansas basketball. Okay. Oh, all of the teams from the University of Kansas are called Jayhawks. So,
that's
it
fun.
Could be any
so
sport.
they're going back to Kansas. That's so cool. That's pretty cute.
That is cute.
Love that.
They developed some loyalty to the University of Kansas.
And here I was asking what NBA team Dean supports or whatever. And he has always been a
they're located in Lawrence,
level.
Kansas too. So yeah.
When it was clear, they'd park her in the middle of nowhere, sit on the hood, and watch the stars for hours without saying a word. It never occurred to them that, sure, maybe they never really had a roof and 4 walls, but they were never, in fact, homeless. And Chuck's like, that's really good. And I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think the point is that they wrote that. They were like, this is kind of bad. And they were like, let's just have Chuck lampshade that it's bad.
Yeah. Anyway, I think this is the first time where we see Chuck actually typing this shit. He's actually quite jolly in this position. But his phone rings and he picks it up. And he answers it by going, Mistress Magda. But it's not Mistress Magda, it's Dean. And they linger on this joke and don't let it go. Yeah.
Dean just saw Sam, get possessed by Lucifer and then disappear. And Bobby and Cass have both told him that the world is gonna end.
And he's like, okay, so
what's Chuck's relationship status? It's because he knows that Sam and Chuck were sort of involved, and he's sort of just trying to suss out how badly Chuck is going to take the news.
Yeah. I think when Dean was like, yeah, Sam said yes, and Chuck says, I know. Maybe Dean was like, what? I thought you guys were in love. Yeah.
Exactly.
But maybe they're not anymore.
Yeah. The Mistress Magda thing is because Supernatural has an ongoing joke that Chuck is unmasculine and uncool, so that means he would be sexually submissive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also, a part of it is also that, he pays for sex work, which, Supernatural
has
always had a weird thing about. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a sign of, lack of
pussy by themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, in 503, I feel like it was treated more neutrally.
What's happening in 503?
The Cass Free to Be You and Me thing.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
With Chastity?
Okay. I think I was thinking about the end. Yeah. I was like, where's that in the end? But you literally said Free to Be You and Me, and I completely skipped over it.
And then I said Free to Be You and Me, yes.
Yeah. Dean is asking what happened to Becky? And Chuck's like, oh yeah, it didn't work out. I had too much respect for her.
What does that mean? I think
if I respected you less, I may be able to stay in a relationship with you more. What?
I mean, respect has been used in 99 Problems as oh, sorry, I'm not actually gonna be attracted to you in front of your dad. So I think that's just a euphemism for I didn't want to fuck her.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely that's what this is for.
Which is, unfortunate. I still don't understand why that's the language chosen.
Yeah, I think the implication here is I don't know. I just didn't like her.
But he did, very much so. In the real Ghostbusters.
want to have sex with her?
Well, he wasn't he doing his whole pining after her thing the whole episode?
I think he was just pining after the idea of like someone liking him.
Why Becky?
Who knows? Why anyone, Crystal?
Fair.
Well, to answer your question, honestly, it's because Becky is already into the show and also into Sam and Dean, and I think Chuck felt a little bit of ownership over those things. Like, well, if you like them so much, you should like me.
Perhaps so.
Yeah. But why anyone, Crystal? Yeah. And Dean just keeps on pressing.
Yeah.
He just keeps on pressing. And Chuck eventually has to go, well, I mean, this can't be the reason why you called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. Dean says, yeah, Sam said yes, blah, blah, blah. Did you see what's gonna happen after? And Chuck is like, the angels are keeping it very top secret, but I saw it anyway. And it's tomorrow, high noon, Stull Cemetery. High noon is like 12. Is that true?
Noon is 12, so I would assume.
Yeah. High noon is 12, but you smoke some weed. Smoke some weed, yeah. Dean immediately recognizes this Stull Cemetery because it's in Lawrence, and Chuck says, well, it has got to start, it has to end where it started, I guess. Chuck also says that, like, there's no way to do all of this unless we have the rings and stuff. And that he doesn't know what's going to happen. But obviously, we know that's not true because he wrote extensively about the car.
Yep. So,
imagine if, like, the car lost gas in the middle of the trip and Dean has to hijack another car. And then he just dies.
To be over.
And the world ends. Yeah, so fun.
So, Dean's by the Impala and Cass and Bobby show up. And Bobby's like, you have a look on your face that indicates you're going to do something stupid. Can you just give up, please? And Dean's like, no, I need to go talk to Sam because it's Sam. And Cass is like, don't do this. Like, the only thing you're going to see out there is Michael killing your brother. A lot of faith in Michael winning here. And Dean says, well then, I ain't gonna let him die alone. And you care about this line.
Yeah, it matters to me.
Yeah. It is, I think, a well-placed line for people to care about.
And,
so,
like, you know, and it's the entire thesis of the scene in Stull Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that's important. That matters to me.
Now we're at Stull Cemetery.
We have the stupidest conversation in all of the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe even other planets. Yeah.
Yeah. And Lucifer's acting very different during this conversation. Like, he's not doing his whole smirky thing anymore.
He's doing like a kick puppy vibe or something.
Yeah. And I feel like, I think it makes sense, but I think the issue is that it's too similar to Sam that, like, I feel like it, like, didn't work as much for me because I need there to be a clearer delineation between the characters. And the thing is,
they were trying to do something. Like, with, like, oh, this is how Lucifer is similar to Sam. Or some, I don't know, actually, what they were trying to do.
I think they were maybe trying to do that. But, like, I feel like with this TV show format where Jared Padalecki is playing both of them, I feel like the main thought is going to be, is he, like, not able to act as a different guy? Yeah, Lucifer says that it's good to see him. And Michael's like, yeah, it's good to see you too. Can't believe it's finally time. And Lucifer's like, I don't really want to do this. And Michael's like, yeah, I don't want to do this either. And Lucifer's like, so, like, why are we doing this? And Michael says, I have no choice after what you did. He doesn't even say what he did. What did he do?
I was waiting for that because I was waiting
what did
for
he actually do. Like, he's been doing stuff now, but what did he do back then? Because he said he refused to bow to humans. That's not doing anything. That's saying a sentence. What did he do?
Like, the thing is, what I was waiting for is some sort of explanation of like what actually occurred, because like Lucifer really does have this kind of like, I'm the underdog, I was the wrong party. Like, every single thing that Lucifer has said this entire season has been like, but don't you see, I'm actually the sad one, you know? Like, that's his entire vibe. And so like what you would expect to happen here is, if they're going to continue to have Lucifer be the bad guy, is for that to be like, that idea to be demolished. That like, no, you just think you're the victim, but like, you actually, what you did was like so vitriolic and you just delude yourself into thinking it's fine. But like, that's like not the vibe of this conversation at all.
Yeah.
Like, this conversation ends, you're like, I'm kind of on Lucifer's side. Like, what's that about?
Yeah, I don't know. It's, yeah. I mean, I don't think we're supposed to be strongly on Michael's side. Like, I think we're supposed to think he's like a tightwad or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I just feel like it would be expected that he says what Lucifer did.
Yeah.
It would be,
I think the implication is that he made God angry, but like, who give a fuck?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, that is the so okay. After what you did was, you made our dad mad, and then he walked out on us.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's an interesting enough concept to explore, but like,
no, but
so
like,
what did he do that made him
God
angry? Yeah. What did he do though?
And like, the thing is, like, again, if they were trying to do something interesting with Lucifer and Michael, they could have done it. It's just impossible to do now at the last episode of this season. And like, we don't see Michael again until season 15. And like, you know what I mean? Like, if they try to develop...
Well, we see AU Michael earlier, but yeah.
Like, if we try to develop stuff more, like, it would be fun. Like,
yeah,
if we know what Lucifer did...
It's just like... And they're just like 17. How? They're brothers!
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do here. Like, they're just trying to have, like, someone who will follow orders and someone who will not. And it's like, okay, well, is there more to anything?
Yeah.
And like, again, like, I'm saying the whole thing about how it could have been interesting because it really could have been interesting, you know? You could have had a more complex Lucifer and a more complex Michael, but they just didn't develop it, and now they expect us to care. And like, well, we don't. Also, like, I do find it so fascinating that, like, here it's revealed that Michael kind of doesn't want to do all of this shit. And like, I remember, like, at some point in the season, I was like, wow, Michael's, like, not really putting in any effort to get to Dean. Yeah. And it's like, I think he was just kind of hoping that nobody says yes.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't really gaff. If Dean doesn't want to say yes, who am I to judge him? I also don't want to say yes.
Yeah, Zachariah was the only one who cared.
Literally? I think maybe what happened is that Michael had a really, really, really enthusiastic subordinate.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, I can't disappoint this guy. Like, I have to pretend that I give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he was like, oh, how I'm going to show that I give a fuck is to be like, if you don't do this, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
He was like, no.
He's like, I really hope he doesn't do it so that I can kill him and then there's no one who wants to do it.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, Lucifer goes, what I did? What if it's not my fault? And he goes, think about it. Dad made everything, which means he made me who I am. God wanted the devil. Okay, you will never be bugged like an angel by Mitski, so move on. Yeah, Lucifer says that he doesn't see the point of them fighting. Like, is this just one of God's tests? Like, we're brothers. Let's just not do it.
I mean, the point that they're trying to make here is like the point of like freedom and choosing your own path.
Yeah.
Veering off your fate, like FATE, etc., etc. I just find it so fascinating that like the thing that Cass says later is peace or freedom. And it's like, for here, it's like, if you do one, you do the other. So I don't know, like,
if you guys don't fight, then there will be peace because the apocalypse will stop.
Yeah, and you will do it through the power of free will. So I don't know, like, I think they kind of trip a little bit in this just entire conversation. Like, it's just mind-boggling. I don't know what they were trying to do.
Maybe if both of them walk off the chessboard, Lucifer's gonna continue sending storms everywhere or whatever, so it won't be peaceful. Who knows? Michael says that he can't step off because he's a good son and he has his orders and he's not gonna rebel like you. And he says that Lucifer always blames other people and that they were all together and happy as angels.
And this is like a part where I was like, that could be interesting. Like, Lucifer is unable to take accountability for anything.
Yeah.
And like, I think that like applies to how we have seen him prior. Like, he never talks about anything he did as anything that could possibly be wrong. Like, he doesn't, etc. Except like here, it just looks like he's right to not blame himself. Like, I don't know. So stupid.
What Michael says is that he betrayed them and made God leave. And Lucifer says, like, no one makes him do anything. That's not my problem. He's doing this to us. Yeah. And then Michael says, let me throw in another Dean parallel. You're a monster, Lucifer, and I have to kill you.
Which is something like Dean literally says, right?
Basically, I think. Well, it was like, if you weren't my brother, like, I'd hunt you or something. And also, I'm sure he says monster at some point.
Yeah, and he does have to kill Sam at some point in season 2. Yeah.
Yeah. All that. And Lucifer's like, okay, fine, let's fight. Yeah. And then we get, honestly, just a very corny scene.
Shut the fuck up.
It's a bad song. The car is going slow. And the
song is bad.
Is like, like, I love the way that, okay, I'll just do it. Okay. Dean,
Can I say something first before you decimate this scene to pieces? I love this scene. I love this bit. I think when Dean put that tape on the deck, I was smiling the entire time. And when he was driving, I was smiling the entire time. And I think part of it is that it's a bright scene, and I was like, wow, we're in daytime. Love the sun. But also, like, I don't know, it's wonderful, I think. Like, the whole vibe of it, of like, yeah, there's just some dude, like, we had just had this really serious, mind-boggling conversation, and now there's this dude with a tape and a terrible song going through there.
Yeah. So there's a guy with a tape and a terrible song. His name is Dean Winchester. Yeah. And he's going through here, yeah. So he's gotten to the cemetery, I assume, and he's like, I want a soundtrack. I want a diegetic soundtrack. I'm about to witness my brother die, but what I really want to do outside the cemetery is put a tape in with just a song that's bad.
is associate a terrible song to his death, and I will never be able to listen to it, which is fine because it's a terrible song.
It's so bad. Yeah.
This is why he chose a terrible song. Yeah. If he chose a good song, he'll be like, this is a song
like
I
I've
can never
heard this
listen to
song
again.
forever. Yeah. It's Rock of Ages by Def Leppard.
This is why you should only listen to terrible music when you begin a relationship, by the way.
Yeah. That is real. So
just like me and Will Wood. Except I still listen to him, so.
It's just, the song begins with just like a talky part that isn't cool or energizing or anything.
Yeah.
And he starts driving incredibly slowly. I myself have had to speed the scene up for AMVs, so I have a special hatred of it.
So true.
I just think it's like, if you're trying to do a slow and deliberate thing, like, don't do this song. And if you're trying to do a cool thing, like, don't have him drive so slow. And also his dialogue seems to indicate that they're trying to do a cool thing.
I don't know. I think it was normal.
Well, I think it sucked. Yeah. So he drives. And it's so nothing. It's like the wheels going over the bumpy grass incredibly slowly. Yeah.
The wheels and the Impala go round and round.
They sure do. And Dean gets out of the car and he goes, "Howdy, boys. Sorry. Am I interrupting something?" Cut to commercial. We come back. Dean is in
snow music.
He opens the door and he goes, "Hey, we need to talk."
And the music is done. They cut the music.
Like, he came out, he was like, "Am I interrupting something?" The song kept going, he was like, wait, give me a second.
He was like, wow, this song, like, actually does suck for real.
Yeah, that just has to be what happened. That's what happened in between. Well, there was the cut to commercial. It's just... real. I just think... this is a very obvious mistake, and I don't see how this couldn't have been caught in editing.
Now we're in the cemetery for real. We were also here for real earlier, but like it was a stupid scene.
Yeah, we were here the whole time. Dean drove like 10 feet.
Yeah. Anyway, Dean says we need to talk, and Lucifer's like, yeah, no, this is so stupid. And Dean's like, no, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to Sam. But Michael is like pissed that Dean is here, and it's like, yeah, you have to not be here. You have no right to be here. And Dean says, Adam, if you're in there somewhere, I am so sorry. At least he apologized.
Yeah, I think it was nice that he said that, but then he forgot about that guy for 10 seasons, so.
Yeah. Michael says, Adam isn't home right now. And Dean goes, well, then you're next on my list. But, right now, I need to talk to Sam. But Michael's really pissed, really furious. He goes, you little maggot. You are no longer a part of this story. But Cass goes, hey, ass butt. What do you think of this? What do you think of this word? Do you like it? I've heard people not like it.
I think it's fun. I mean, I think I encountered it before. I had the knowledge and feeling to form an opinion on it. So it's just like part of who Cass is as a person to me.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think maybe that's true for me too. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I think he's cute. I think he's fun. But yeah, it cuts to Cass and Bobby, and they're standing
they
there.
drove here together.
Yeah. And Cass is holding a Molotov cocktail. And, he throws the bottle directly at Michael, like directly at Michael's body. And also it's like a Molotov cocktail of, like holy oil, I think. or holy fire. And Dean just like looks back and goes, oh, and Michael erupts into flames, and Dean turns back and goes, ass butt? And Cass is just like, and he goes, he'll be back and upset, but you have your 5 minutes. But Lucifer, looking at this, goes, Castiel, did you just Molotov my brother with a holy fire? And then it cuts to Dean, who gives Cass like a little bit of a like side eye. He's like, so how are you gonna get out of here? And Cass just goes, no. And he's so cute. He's like, he's doing that same, like he has the same vibe of when he told Sam, like, no, yeah, they're gonna be fine. Yeah. He has one lying face. Lucifer says no one dicks with Michael, but me. And he explodes Cass into a puddle. Not even a puddle. It's like so everywhere. It's like a fine mist of blood and goo and meat and everything. Anyway, like, you know, we get a Dean reaction face where he like looks at this and he looks shocked, which is kind of funny because later when Bobby dies, Dean looks at it and goes, no! So like, I don't know, and the juxtaposition of those is pretty funny to me.
Yeah.
As Lucifer starts trying to attack Dean, but then, Bobby shoots and Lucifer twists his neck via air and he dies.
Yeah.
No!
No!
Yeah. And then like Dean starts trying to crawl up the hood of the Impala or something. And then Lucifer like grabs him by the legs so that he can start punching, and he punches him to hell and back.
It's honestly kind of funny the way the punches are cut, like feels like a comedy skit.
Yeah. Anyway, what happened at some point, like Dean falls like to the ground beside the Impala. Dean starts calling out for Sam, but Lucifer is like, no, he's in here, but you know, we're going to feel every crack of your bone. Just like me in the morning. And he says we're gonna take our time. But then Dean like holds on to Sam's jacket. And he goes, Sam, it's okay, I'm here. I'm not gonna leave you. And he just like repeats this for a bit. Like he's really beaten the fuck up and Lucifer is still going at him. And then suddenly, as like Lucifer raises his fist for like that final blow, he catches sight of the little replacement army guy that Dean put in the ashtray. That Sam put in the ashtray before Dean did. Wait, this joke escaped me completely. But I mean, like, there's the army guy there. The way they do it is like, it's there, and then we like zoom in on Sam's eye, and there's like a glint in his eye that looks so obviously like edited in. It looks bad. It looks horrible. But and then like we just have this quiet, this like incredibly quiet scene. Is there a background music? I don't think there was, but it was just this incredibly quiet scene where, like, you know, Lucifer and now Sam has his fist raised up and he's looking at the little army guy, and we just get a bunch of flashbacks. And it is, at first it was like all of the times that are like Impala relevant. So like carving their initials on it, you know, stuff like that. And all the toys. And I don't know, like the cassette tape collection, you know, stuff like that. Like sleeping in the car, going through the car, Sam brushing, you know. I Did we ever see them carve their initials? Like, aside from here? I don't think. I think this is like the first.
Yeah, I mean, they did it when they were kids, and they'll do it in
No,
the
yeah, but I mean, like, we've never seen the
I don't
carved
think they've done
initials, like, ever.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, they bring it up in, you know, the finale. Or at least the pre-finale. They bring it up in 1519. Where they carve... What did they carve?
Castiel and Jack.
I think they put CW... No, they put SW, DW, MW, Jack and Castiel. Or Cass, I think.
I think it was Castiel.
I don't think I'm sure it's Castiel. You know why? Because if they put Cass, they would have made it double S and I would have rioted. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a fun thing. The carving specifically. The flashbacks slowly turn from like moments in the car to moments with Dean. So now we have scenes that are like not in the car, but it's Dean. And like, it's actually like quite emotional. Like, I felt like, oh, like the show's ending, you know, when I was watching this scene. And then they did this really horrible editing choice where the final scene is a scene where Dean like hugs Sam in, when he comes back to life in All Hell Breaks Loose. But they slow it down. So it's a really janky slow motion. So there's just this like hype up of, and like the cuts become faster and faster too. So like they are building up to something. It it doesn't fall flat. I think it still flies a little bit, but it just flies slower than it should have otherwise if they used a more not a slow motion version of this scene. But okay. Go AMV makers or something. Anyway, yeah, we go back to Sam, who is now Sam, and he unclenches. It's him. And he goes, "It's okay. It's okay, Dean. It's gonna be okay. I got him." And then he gets the ring, puts it on the ground. He does the chant. And he looks so scared. And I think that's what got to me. Like, he does look so scared, like, about to jump into this thing. And as he's about to, Michael, like, comes in. And it's like, no, we can't do this. We can't do this. And eventually, like, Michael, like, tries to get Sam to not jump. But Sam just grabs him in with him.
Yeah.
And the earth swallows them. And it closes up, and that's it.
Yeah.
End of story.
Goodbye.
If this show ended here, this would be the last we see of Sam.
Yeah.
And it is quite an affecting thing to think about. Because we start the story with Sam. Like, this is Sam's story.
They never treat it like it's Sam's story.
Yeah, but you know, like, if this was the final episode of the show and it was just like, okay, start to end, like, we started out with Sam and like, you know, Sam had an apple pie life or whatever. He was in college. That was like barely apple pie. That's like apple tart maybe. He had an apple tart life.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like, you know, he was safe and he was there, had a girlfriend, which I'm only mentioning because it's important, not because I support the role of misogyny in Supernatural.
Well, I do.
Yeah. Every time you mention Jess, it's in support of the role of misogyny in Supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm nodding my head to show that I agree with misogyny in Supernatural.
Yeah. And then his last scene is he just gets swallowed up by a hole in the earth and dies. And not even just dies, like, it's miserable forever. Like, it sucks. And good. I don't know. Yeah. It's truly something. It's something. Yeah. I just want to say that.
I don't know. Okay, I guess it would just be framed as, like, a tragedy, obviously, but, like, what is the framing? Like, is part of it, like, well, he made his mistakes and now he's paying for it, or is it?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think
it's just...
I think it's like, what are the choices we make? And you can make the right choice. And in this case, like, Sam made the right choice to jump into that thing, etc. And the world was saved. But, like, you know, he's gonna be, like, suffering in a cage forever. And Dean's miserable and alone. And Cass is going back to the place that rejected him. And Bobby's back to being by himself. And, you know, it's like these concepts of, like, what does it mean? Like, yeah, you can do the right thing.
Right.
But none of that guarantees a happy ending. In fact, maybe even doing the right thing means subsuming yourself into the fact that you're never going to be happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's something.
Yeah. I suppose.
Wow. Sorry. A bummer.
I mean, if it ended here, it was meant to be a tragedy, which is meant to be a bummer. Yeah. Dean's still kneeling on the ground where he was when Sam came back. And Cass shows up. And Dean goes, Cass, you're alive? And Cass says, I'm better than that. And he heals Dean by touching him on the forehead. And
It
Dean
does
gets up. Yeah.
I think there's something to, like, as I've said earlier, like, Dean, like, loses everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, he lost...
Yeah. He points
Sam.
it out on the car convo, too.
Yeah. And lost Bobby. But, like, in that scene, he was, like, in the car conversation, he was, like, actively losing Cass, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was somebody he connected with. And now, like, he's just gonna go back to heaven. And I don't know, like, this one, like, I'm bringing this up here because the Cass You're Alive is, like, it's like a, you know, like, if Cass is alive, then I haven't lost everyone. And then he brings back Bobby, and it's like, well, I haven't lost everyone. Yeah. Like, at least Bobby's here, at least Cass is here, and then he loses those two. And, like, by choice,
loses
it seems like.
Bobby. I feel like both of them just decided not to hang out.
Yeah. Maybe Dean was like, oh, you never even love my brother. like maybe Bobby was like, oh, what a good thing that Sam succeeded. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I knew he had it in him to throw himself into a burning pit in hell or whatever. And Dean was like, dude, have some sensitivity. Yeah. I'm mourning. And like Bobby was like, wait, why are you mourning? I thought you were afraid of like losing. You just lost your brother.
Yeah, that's why I don't
Dean was like, I need to go.
So true. Yeah. I don't know. It seems like more of a choice because that's like Sam wanted me to live a normal apple pie life with Lisa, and that means that I'm not going to talk to any hunters anymore. Bye.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah, no, how would Cass have fit into this apple pie life?
I don't know.
Sam wanted Dean to go back and, like, go live with Lisa and all that shit, but he also wanted Cass to watch over him. Yeah, when Cass was looking at Dean raking leaves, that wasn't about Destiel. He was just following his promise to Sam.
Yeah.
I fucking hate doing this. But I told the love of my life, Sam Winchester, that I would.
Yeah, like if Dean was secretly gay, but he had to be straight to like keep his promise to Sam. Cass is secretly straight, but he had to keep his promise to Dean, and that's why he did all of that shit.
He's secretly straight?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no love for Sam that's causing this.
No love for Sam other than I don't
brotherly.
know. He promised.
Yeah.
He has respect for the promise. He has respect for the lie.
He has too much respect for Sam, and that's why he's following the promise and not fucking him.
Exactly.
So, yeah, Cass heals Dean, who stands up and says, Cass, are you God? Kind of a crazy line. I don't, like, what did he mean by... Dean has had a lot of issues with God this season. Is that related at all to this statement? Like,
yeah.
What is... Like, does he actually believe this for a second? And yeah, also, what is he asking?
I think maybe he did believe it for a second.
And that Cass had been God the whole time?
I think it's also a little bit wishful thinking, maybe. That? Like, if Cass is God...
He'll bring Sam back.
Then, like, he'll bring Sam back or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I thought that God was, like, a completely detached figure who didn't give a fuck, but he was here the whole time helping
But if God wanted to fuck me, maybe he'll bring back my brother.
Literally.
And he did. He literally did. But he's not God, he's an angel, so he only brought back Sam's body, not his soul. So true.
Yeah. Exactly. Cass says, that's a nice compliment, which is also an interesting idea.
He's like smiling a little bit. He's doing a beatific smile or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Ugh, I love when Cass does a beatific smile. I don't think he's done one this whole season. I think now that he has his powers back, he feels superior again in some way. He's not miserable and he feels he has the right to beatifically smile. He goes like, no, but I think he brought me back. New and improved. And then he fucking resurrects Bobby. Does he lose his resurrection powers right after this episode? Because I feel like it'd be very helpful if he continued to have them through season 6.
Maybe Bobby's not dead. Maybe he just had a broken neck, but he was on the verge of dying. I don't think.
Okay, sure.
I don't think that's true because your spinal cord does the
Yeah, his brain needs to be
the breathing,
connected.
the unconscious.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that called? The things that you do that you don't think about.
The autonomic functions. So yeah, Bobby's alive. And then we go to the Chuck voiceover in Chuck's house. And he's finishing up the manuscript. And he goes, endings are hard. And everyone hates all endings. The fans are always gonna bitch.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to add up to something, which also makes it hard. And then
imagine like reading a book and it's like how it ends.
Yeah, you're going to the ending and it's like, it's hard to write these because you're fucking annoying. Anne Rice would do this. Anne Rice would say that you're interrogating the text from the wrong perspective. Yeah, have you seen that? Like, apparently, I haven't read any of the Vampire Chronicles, but one of the books called Blood Canticle came out, and it was, like, universally panned because it's just bad. And she, like, wrote an Amazon review of her own book that was incredibly long, and all of it was like, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I can't believe you don't recognize art. Like, oh, you're telling me I should have gotten an editor? I don't use editors because I know I'm better than them, etc., etc. And one of the opening things is that she says, you guys are interrogating the text from the wrong perspective. And I think that's the phrase that stuck from that review. But yeah, Chuck would do that. Yeah, we now have a Dean and Cass and Dean scene in the Impala. And Dean's driving, Cass sitting next to him. And Dean asks, what are you gonna do now? And Cass says, return to heaven, I suppose. With Michael in the cage, I'm sure it's total anarchy up there. And Dean goes, so what, you're the new sheriff in town? And Cass smiles beatifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cass goes, yeah, I suppose I am.
Yeah. He says, I like that first.
What's his problem? What is his problem? Let's do a Cass analysis right now.
What is his problem? He spent like a season feeling absolutely miserable as he lost his powers little by little.
Yeah, and then he was proven right. So
yeah, and also he was like, God doesn't care about me, God doesn't love me, etc., etc. And he got all his powers back. God said, "You're my favorite special little angel," and kissed him on the forehead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, thank God I don't have to feel as depressed as I did last year when I was hanging out with all these fuck-ass guys. Goodbye.
Oh, that's true. He probably does associate Dean with, like, negativity. Because he's like, yeah, this is the person that made me experience doubt. And, like, that's not true, but Cass thinks it is. You know what I mean? Like, he does think that...
Yeah, because he went from, like, the lowest, like, let's all get drunk and die as the world ends, to, like, oh my God, like, God loves me, God cares, I have my powers back, he, like, wants this for me, I want this for me, like, I don't want to hang out with this guy anymore, he ruined my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he still has a fondness for Dean. I think there's just like a, that was then, that was my lowest. He was there for me at my lowest. Now I'm at my highest. I don't need him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he will be there in all of your further lowests, Cass.
Yeah.
But only because he will shove your face into the mud face first.
Exactly. I think he cares. I think there's a fondness. I think there's also just a sense of superiority and moving on. Like, he was like, God, as my therapist said, that I shouldn't talk to you anymore.
And, like, I think now more than ever, Cass thinks like, oh, I'm an angel and this is some guy.
Yeah.
And that's a sentiment of his that will continue on for a bit and will be the backbone of season 6. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's cool that we see it then here. That, like, there's already inklings of that here.
So yeah, Dean goes, oh, wow, God gives you a brand new shiny set of wings and suddenly you're his bitch again. Yeah, and Cass does say that he doesn't know what God wants. I don't know if he'll even return. It just seems like the right thing to do. So, okay, I think we were maybe overstating God's importance regarding his change of heart.
No, I mean,
but
it's purpose. I think God's part of it too, for sure. Like, God did bring him back, and that is a big thing. But, like, he's chasing the sense of purpose, and he thinks the sense of purpose was given to him by God. Like, I don't think it's we're attributing too much or anything.
Well, he says he doesn't know what God wants exactly.
Yeah,
though,
but like, if God gave
like
me
God,
this skill, I need to use it.
Think.
Like, it's a thing.
Yeah, I think that does make sense. Everyone in heaven hates him and wants him to die. It's incredibly funny that he was like, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna rule everybody.
Yeah. Well, he was like, well, God said faggot you live forever. So who gives a shit if everybody wants me to die?
Exactly. And Dean says, if you do see him, tell him I'm coming for him next. And Cass is like, oh, you're angry.
He's like kind of shocked. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's like, you're angry. And it's like, he's saying this like it's a reveal.
Yeah. He's like, wait, aren't we like good? Like, I'm cruising. I'm living my best life. I brought your Bobby guy, that one. He's back. Like, we all knew your brother was gonna die. Like, what's up? Dean goes, that's an understatement. And Cass says he helped, maybe even more than we realize. And yeah, Dean says explicitly that's easy for you to say because he brought you back. But what about Sam? And what about
me? Yeah. Where's my grand prize?
All I got is my brother in a hole.
Yeah. And Cass says this line that, like, it's kind of iconic to me. Also doesn't make a lot of sense in the context. I don't know. They're trying to do something. But he says, you got what you asked for. No paradise. No hell. Just more of the same. I mean it, Dean. What would you rather have? Peace or freedom? And he says it, peace or freedom. Like, he's really selling it.
He's practicing for his TED Talk.
Yeah, we go to Dean, but like as he turns his head to talk to Cass, Cass has disappeared. And Dean goes, well, you really suck at goodbyes. You know that?
Yeah.
I mean, it is incredibly funny that Dean was like, what about Sam? What about me? And Cass is like, well, you made your choice, Dean. And then he seemingly immediately goes to the cage to bring back Sam.
No, that is so true. Yeah, no, at what point was Cass like, okay, it's cage time? Like, did he go to heaven first for a while? And he was like, actually, this kind of boring. I need an adventure. Like, I'm kind of bored. Let me just nip down to the cage for a second. Or yeah, or was it just like, Dean, you have to accept that Sam is gone forever. Oh my god, he's gonna be so happy when I surprise him next week. Like, I guess he also didn't know that he was gonna succeed. Maybe he just wanted to be like, I'm gonna say something so wise. Yeah. It's gonna leave Dean in a really emotionally stable spot if I try and fail. I think this is gonna be what's really gonna help him throughout the rest of his life in case I die down there. So, what is it that... Okay, like, Dean asked for this when?
Asked for what? What are you talking about?
You got what you asked for, Dean? Like, what is he talking about? And
no,
also,
like,
when did he ask
like,
for it?
Dean's just general idea that, like, heaven shouldn't exist.
True. It still exists.
What?
But it still does exist.
You know, I mean, for Dean is, I think, like, I don't know. No, I don't know.
No paradise, no hell is just the outcomes of the Lucifer Michael fight.
Apocalypse.
That's what he's talking about. There we go. Okay, yeah. He was like, you didn't want the fight to happen. The fight didn't happen.
Yeah. Anyway.
And that means that the earth is going to stay the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peace or freedom? Okay, what is peace in this situation?
I have no idea.
Is it like if this heaven wins the fight?
No, because like
that's what peace is.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I think you can argue that this is peace and freedom. Like, yeah, Dean's out of the hunting life. Like, he's fine. Like, he's miserable, but he's fine. I mean, you can make the argument that peace doesn't necessarily mean happiness. And, like, yeah. Like, I don't know. It's just like, it was a bit flat. Maybe that's the reason why Cass was like, oh, this argument is not working. I think I need to get Sam out of the cage. Yeah. So we have more of a voiceover. Chuck is going like, yeah, this is the last scene. This is the last time Dean and Bobby are going to see each other for a very long time. It's not that long. Also, like, this is like cut by like Dean and Bobby like having a hug and like Dean driving away. And Chuck says like Bobby's going to be hunting a Rougarou next week, but Dean won't be. And Dean didn't want Cass to save him. Every part of him,
very interesting 401 callback.
Also, like it's just an interesting way to put it.
Happened here, yeah.
Dean didn't want Cass to save him. He was still alive. Like, was he gonna die of injuries?
Oh, I thought he was talking about 401.
No, he was talking about just this.
It's 522, just now?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's gonna die.
He wants to die and find a way to bring Sam back. I mean, he can get CTE, so he'll die alone. So, I don't know. I think it's just an interesting way to say that Cass saved him. Like, I don't think that's true necessarily.
I think if they wanted this to work, he had to be dying a little bit harder by the time Cass showed up.
Like, I think it could be fine to have him, like, lying on the ground, like, obviously dying of injuries or something.
Yeah.
And then Cass shows up and, like, he's back to life. But yeah, apparently every part of him, every fiber he's got wants to die or find a way to bring Sam back. But he isn't gonna do either. He's not gonna die ever. Because he made a promise. Yeah. And the promise manifests itself via Dean knocking on Lisa's door. And it's like night. And like Lisa opens the door and she like looks a bit shocked, and Dean is like wearing a very sheepish smile. And he goes like, hey, like, if it's not too late, I think I'll take you up on the beer. And Lisa goes, it's never too late. Shut the fuck up. I'm so sorry. It's not her fault that she's a woman in Supernatural.
And also we said that we'll try to analyze her more like a real person rather than a woman in Supernatural, because she's going to be in so much of season 6 that it doesn't make sense to dismiss her every time she's on screen.
Yeah. Okay. So
it is hard. But yeah.
I think right now what we ought to do is just discuss this as it is right now, which is that it's a really stupid thing that Supernatural did. And like, we need to get it out of our system here, because in season 6, I think we just it's our responsibility, I think, to like engage with the Lisa storyline as benevolently towards Lisa as possible or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so stupid. And like, Dean steps in and then like Lisa hugs him. And she goes, it's okay. It's
like,
okay. It's gonna be okay.
Like are you his mommy? Anything. What is this?
What is this? And it's just like, and like, this is what I was trying to compare with earlier with Sam. With like Jess. But the thing with Sam and Jess in their apple tart life was that, like, Jess doesn't know anything. And like, Sam wasn't like in active trauma mode in college. Which is a very different dynamic from Dean and Lisa. Where Lisa doesn't know, like, knows that stuff happened, but doesn't know anything about it. And it's like having to play the role of being like careful and walking on eggshells around this guy. Who, while she is also taking care of a child. Yeah. Which, like, I don't know, it's just an incredibly different dynamic. And like, I understand that what they're trying to do is that it's not just Lisa, it's the family. Like, she has a kid. And I remember like when they were trying to do the Lisa thing like earlier this season, and we both said that like, why not Cassie? And it's like, that's probably for the best, because if it was with Cassie, that's gonna be a toddler. And it's like, maybe it's better that it's like a 13 or 12-year-old kid.
Is he really that old?
I think so. 12, yeah. Maybe.
I'm gonna look up Ben Braden. Well, no, okay. He had a fling with Lisa nearly 9 years prior, and then there's the 9 months of pregnancy, so he was probably turning 8 in season 3. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess he's 10 to 11 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, yeah, so the point is to have a kid. But, yeah. I don't know. It's just, like, the way they characterize Lisa is like, what is this? She's just
been here waiting for him.
She's just been here waiting for him. Like, yeah. And I don't know. Again,
it's also how
I'm
they
trying to
characterize Kate Milligan.
Yeah, I'm trying to I guess I'm going to try to hold out severe judgments until season 6. So,
yeah, I don't know. I feel like the way I have to approach it is just like, this is what I see on screen. What is the type of person who would be like this? And then try to just fill that in with a complete person.
yeah.
Like, okay, say she has been waiting for Dean the whole time. Like, why do we think that is?
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe she just got freaked out by Dean last time. And it's not like she was waiting for Dean. It was more of a, oh, thank God this guy that I thought was going to kill himself or something is alive.
Yeah. But I also feel like if you're someone who cares or is nervous about it, like, you, like, start, like, throwing a bunch of questions. Right? Like, there's, like, a kind of franticness that she just doesn't represent because she's just meant to be this calming presence.
Yeah, that's the thing.
No, okay, I'm getting off the, okay, I need to think of her as a real
because
person.
they've done Amelia with Jimmy. So like, oh my God, Jimmy's dead, R.I.P. But like, they did Amelia, and they did her well. Like,
yeah,
I think her characterization was like, she felt like a person who's actually experiencing this shit. Yeah, but like for some reason they just completely missed the mark on Lisa. At least here, but yeah. Yeah,
I get, okay, she finds out monsters are real and Dean saves her son's life. I get, like, I don't know, if you're sort of unsatisfied, I get, like, making a big deal of that in your head, especially because it was, like, linked with an extremely stressful time of her life and, like, her learning a lot of new things about the world. I get, like, I don't know, sort of putting Dean on some sort of hero Hawkeye pedestal after that. And then, yeah, he comes by, he worries her a lot, and then he comes back. I think there's enough adrenaline associated with him that she might just be like, okay, yeah, let's be chill and try to have him stay. But I don't know, is that the vibe? What is the vibe? I mean, apparently she talked about him to her friends before season 3 as the best lay she's ever had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she has had a long-term sort of thing for Dean.
I think, okay. You know what? I berate her so much. If I was in her position, I think I'd let not Dean, but like, a person who is akin to Dean in my life, into my life. Like, I think maybe I'll do it. So I don't know.
Like, you're worried about this person. This person is also exciting, and you're kind of bored.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, but like, I think because we know for a fact that this isn't just like helping Dean get back to his feet or something. It's Dean will be the dad of the family now.
Yeah, she wants him to be Ben's dad. I think it's at that point where I start being like
maybe I'll let this theoretical Dean into my life. But if I had a theoretical child, I won't be like, yeah, you can stay here forever and ever, and also you're the father of this kid.
Yeah.
Or the mother. I don't know. Gender diversity.
I can put you up in a hotel for a few weeks.
I think it's like you can stay over for I think it's like you can stay over for a bit until you get back to your feet, and I'll help you find a job if you want to do that. I'll help you find an apartment or something.
Yeah.
But like,
and if during that time he proves himself to be really good with Ben and they like fall into bed together a few times also, then I can see them getting to where they are in season 6. But the immediacy doesn't make sense.
yeah, I think what it is that it's like a foregone conclusion that they're gonna be a family now is the thing that bothers me.
Yeah.
Because if it was like Lisa helped Dean back to his feet, and then in season 6, months or years later, they have ended up becoming a romantic couple, I'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. Why not? But like here, it's like they just go right into it. Like, are they gonna fuck later tonight? Like, what's the situation? What is the situation? What is the situation? What is the situation?
I could not.
I don't know.
Tell you. See, I feel like all of my making Lisa seem like a real person things involve like Dean sort of being like an exciting fling thing that maybe develops more later. But like, yeah, this is very much like, here he is, my husband, home from the war.
You don't even know the guy. Well, whatever. I think we should move on because etc. It like zooms out slowly, and then Chuck goes, "So, what's it all add up to? It's hard to say, but I'd say this was a test for Sam and Dean, and I think they did all right." And then there's like flashbacks, whatever. Yeah, up against good, evil, angels, demons, destiny, and God himself. They made their own choice. They chose family. And well, isn't that kind of the whole point? No, it's not. It's hope.
Yeah.
You're lying to
Chuck.
me.
You should know.
Yeah. Anyway, stuff's happening. And then we go back to Chuck and he writes the end. And then he goes, no doubt, endings are hard. But then again, what is it? No, he says, nothing ever really ends, does it? And then he like gives a little bit of a smile and then he disintegrates into the air. And he's God. R.I.P. No, not R.I.P. Amen. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's that.
I think it's Amen.
I'm just a little confused about what he means by they chose family.
Yeah, I did say we should discuss it. But now that we're here, I'm like, I don't know.
Okay, this was a test for Sam and Dean. Okay, the test was, is Dean gonna grow up and trust Sam enough that, like, he's not gonna prevent Sam from doing this? And then
is Sam gonna throw himself into a pit?
For Dean strong enough that he'll be able to wrest control back from Lucifer and throw himself into a big ol' hole? Or that's the test.
I don't know.
And choosing family means respecting your brother, and from Dean. And
but only if he wants to die. In other ways, you shouldn't respect him. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I think, no. Actually, you know what? In further analysis, I think what he's saying is that they made their own choice. And that is the point. In that they chose family. The point is the choice, not the family.
But, like, how did they choose family, though?
Secret. I don't know. I think they chose family in that Dean like decided that even if it means he'd die, he won't let Sam die alone. I think that's it.
Okay, sure. And then that is how Sam was able to wrest back control because Dean was there.
Yeah.
Or the Impala was there. Literally, if like Bobby had just driven the Impala over and then stood to the side, it would have been fine too.
So yeah, I think the point is the choice, not the family.
Okay. Sure. All right.
Hashtag abortion rights or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we go back. This scene, it boggles my mind. So we go back to Lisa's house. And we're like looking through the window And like Dean is inside, and like Lisa's like on the counter preparing food, and then she goes and like serves the food, and like Ben is also on the table.
Kitchen, Dean.
Dean is drinking whiskey.
Yeah.
Why?
Because she offered him a beer, so it doesn't really make sense.
I mean, I understand that people can drink whiskey in houses even. But like it's just like it's dinner time. You're about to eat. You're not done eating yet. You're about to eat. There's a kid in front of you.
Yeah.
Lisa offered him whiskey?
Looking off to the side away from Ben also, which is like, I feel like if your mother decides that you just have a new dad now, like, that new dad now should take some effort to talk to you. He's literally like ignoring the child, swigging whiskey, and Lisa's like, yes, this is what I want.
I don't know what is it with like the alcohol that really. Do you understand like where my hesitation comes from, and also like, do you think it's reasonable? Like you shouldn't be drinking whiskey here. I think is my opinion.
Like in this scene in her house in front of the kid, what's your particular objection?
It's before I think whiskey is like that's after food.
Oh, okay.
Like.
That was
this is just a gourmet thing. No, but like I think it's like after food, and it's like not with the children. I don't know. I mean, because like if this was wine, I'd probably be like, it's fine. But I think whiskey is much more stronger than wine.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like. Because I don't wanna come in here and be like, if you're an alcoholic, you should like not be near children at all. Like that's because I'm afraid that it's gonna come off like that, right? And that's why I'm asking, like, do you think this is like an appropriate thing for me to say? I just think like again, it falls into the idea of like Lisa. Like, what is she doing? And what is Dean doing? And what is Ben thinking? I don't know. Like, if you're a kid and then some just random guy shows up and he's like, I don't know, like, I'm gonna be here for a while, and then he's drinking whiskey, like, on the dinner table. It's like, have some courtesy. Have some decorum. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it is probably on best behavior, one probably wouldn't do that. I think there are different norms in different families about like drinking in the presence of children and all that. I think it's fine that he's doing it.
You think so? Okay.
And I don't think that Ben would necessarily think too much of it. Yeah. I think that it speaks to a level of trust that Lisa has in Dean that I don't think is entirely earned. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of odd that it's the last shot of the season, but I guess the point is just Dean's in a lot of pain and he won't be able to fully commit himself to this. I think that the discomfort might be like it's purposeful.
Intentional.
Yeah.
Okay. But the discomfort makes sense, you think?
I mean, I think you are supposed to. Like, I think they do make it pretty clear that he's, like, not looking at Ben while he's drinking. I think it is meant to be, like, a thing where he's not able to commit himself fully. But also they are so in love with the idea that it's a given that they're just going to be a family now that it is kind of hard to know if the discomfort is intentional. I think the point is just Dean is in pain is the main point. And I don't know if there's an additional point.
But they also just drink whiskey like all the time. So it could mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, they drink beer more. than whiskey, but yeah, they do drink whiskey sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we zoom out of the house, and then there's like a street light, and then it zaps out, and then there's someone beneath it, and then like we go to that someone, and it's Sam watching this entire thing. He's already back.
No, yeah, I'm so...
It's been like a day.
Confused. Like, how was he in there for 200 years if, like, this is tonight? Unless, is this later? Is this meant to be, like, a time skip?
I've been saying. I don't think it's a time skip. I think it's, like, at most 3 days later.
Wait. Okay, because I thought this was, like, tonight, right? Which means that Sam was in there for, like, what, 5 hours? But... Okay, let's see. This confrontation happened at high noon. Like, and it happened at, like, he went in at, like, around 12:07 or whatever, because Michael was only gone for, like, a few minutes. And then it's night, it's, like, dinner time night, so it's, like, 7 p.m. So Sam was in there for, like, 7 hours.
Yeah. It is so incredibly funny to me that, like, I don't know, like, when Cass was talking about, or when Anna was talking about, or I don't know, when the both of them were talking about, like, how Cass got Dean out of hell, Cass was like, oh yeah, I lost an entire garrison. It was so difficult. We were, like, on a time crunch, and we still didn't make it. And then he got Sam out in 7 hours.
Wait. Yeah, no, that implied, were they fighting through hell for the whole, like, 4 months or whatever while Dean was gone?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess the cage is, maybe there's a shortcut to it.
He just literally opened it up again with the rings, and it just went in. So true.
No, that's true, because Dean pocketed the rings.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So Cass could have just slipped them out of his pocket and done the incantation and then went in.
So true. Go, Cass. Well, what did we think about this episode? I found it interesting. I found it fun to talk about. I found it fun to watch. I found it pivotal. I found it influential.
I found it fine.
Etc. Okay, best line, worst line. I would say my best line are the combo of Dean being like, it's okay, I'm here. And then Sam going, it's okay, I got him. Like, those two lines, you know? I don't know, I think it's the it's okay part of it, where they're like trying to comfort each other. Where, you know, for Dean it's like, it's okay, you're not gonna die alone. And for Sam it's like, it's okay, I'm going to be able to do this thing. Which I think also reflects like their perspective on their roles and their priorities, etc.
Yeah, that's nice.
Wow, analysis. I'm so annoying. Well, okay, let's go.
I don't think I have any analysis. See, best lines.
What?
I don't know. I think Lucifer was appropriately creepy with all those times you ran away. You weren't running from them. You were running towards me. And I think Cass was very cute when he went, oh, you want me to lie? It's gonna be okay.
So true. He is cute. I think my worst line is like when Michael was like, after what you've done. Or whatever. And then we just never elaborate.
What did he do?
It's like, just makes Michael sound so vindictive.
Yeah. Well, I didn't like when Dean called Cass a maybe slur.
Oh yeah, he did call Cass a maybe slur. Spreadsheets. Okay. Misogyny, there is, and it is fundamental to the episode.
Yeah. But also, are we gonna end up putting points in every season 6 episode where Lisa is present, or should we just get all of the Lisa points out of our system now?
I think we can figure out what they're doing and how they're doing it, etc. Like, I think we can find a way to interface with nuance, etc.
Yeah.
I think the misogyny here is 3. Yeah?
Yeah. That makes sense to me. Go for it.
Racism, I think it's 0.
Yes. I don't remember anything.
Homophobia. I think that is a slur.
Junk with sissy should count as a homophobia. It's also a transmisogyny, but that would be included under misogyny, and we already gave it 3.
I think it's a 3. I think because I think 1 and 2 is like casual stuff. This one feels elevated from casual.
Huh. I mean, he calls Sam a pansy in season 2 also, right? What do we give that?
I don't know. What episode is that?
Oh, Tall Tales? Season 2. Oh, we were only giving points per occurrence and not magnitude back then, so I'm fine with a 3. I feel like I wouldn't have gone for a 3. I would have gone for a 2, but I'm fine with a 3.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, IMDb. Who's winning? Or we shouldn't say because it's me, but it's for next week. It's for next week's season ender wrap up.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your guess?
It's high.
Of course.
9.4.
Can I be honest? That is also my guess.
So you're just gonna win because you're currently winning, and we'll have the same point differential if you vote the same as me. I see.
Yeah. No, but I'm honest. I have integrity as a person.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna change mine. I'm just gonna go big or go home.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 9.6, even though that's absolutely wrong.
How about I go bigger than you?
You're free to do whatever you want.
Okay, I'm going to go 9.7. No, I'm gonna go 9.8. Go big or go home. Is that too high?
It's definitely
it's insane.
It's definitely not a 9.8, and I don't even think it's a 9.6, which is why I said a 9.4.
9.8.
Honestly, what I should be doing is I should be calculating the biggest point differential or the smallest point differential I need from you in order for my average to actually reach yours.
Let's do it. Okay.
Right? Oh my god.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Figure it out.
I just think that'll take long, and I don't want to actually. But that would be the right strat.
Okay. I'll see it now. So your guess is 9.6 and mine is 9.8. If it's lower than 9.6, you have a pretty good chance. I think. Maybe. I don't think it's lower than I think it's actually exactly 9.6.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
okay, let's see. Oh! It's a 9.7!
Oh my god! Look at that. World peace.
World is a wonder, even.
Yeah.
There's many user reviews.
Yeah, I'd assume so.
People enjoy it. 5 years in the making. Amazing. The finale that should have been. Shut the fuck up. But it's true. But you shouldn't say it.
Most of us can't say enough about how terrific the show was, with the exception of one classy genius who felt that the episode was too emotional and that Dean should end up with a skanky chick. What is the... I don't understand. I want to know the source. I want to know what they're summarizing as this.
This one did make me feel feelings. This was in November 2020, which is November 21 for you guys. It's just November 20 for me. It goes, Sam and Dean and Cass and Bobby deserve this ending, an ending with emotion and meaning. And I'm like, oh, the finale was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least you're gonna give a fuck just because it's so horrible.
It's true.
Power of love, so true. It all started with a car. Yeah, I think there's like a lot of people after the finale going like, it should have, this is what the ending should have been like. I don't know, people are just into it. Oh, this one says, I don't get the hype. Let's see, what's your input? I would say the episode was beautifully done and written well, especially how it started with Chuck talking about baby, but as a series ending, I don't like it because it has one brother in hell and one above, and just like the actual series finale that I also don't like, it's not how I would want it to end. That's your problem. Yeah, people are into it. This one says it's anticlimactic. The show is starting to run out of ideas. It has done that a long time ago.
Wow.
Gonna
be a while.
I mean, that's pretty much it. Wow, we are done with season 5.
Someone keeps calling the Lucifer Sam Lucifer, which is kind of fun.
Isn't it Sammy Fur? Isn't that what they say?
Samfer is also the ship name, though, isn't it? So I feel like some people use it to say the guy, and some people use it to say the ship name. Lucifer is a way around that, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for this episode of Busty Asian Beauties. Next week, we will be doing a season 5 wrap-up episode with a very special guest. So check that out. Wait for it, etc. Yeah.
Not like a celebrity, though. Like, does it make it seem like that's a celebrity? They're a celebrity to me, but they're not a celebrity
to me. But they're not Misha Collins. Yeah. Thank God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcast.
Follow us on social media. We are on Tumblr at BustyAsianBeautiesPod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is BABPod, BABPod. Thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/BustyAsianBeautiesPod, which is where our outtakes live. And check out our merch at babpod.redbubble.com.
You can email us any feedback, comments, or inquiries at BustyAsianBeautiesPod@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.